Chapter 695, Nian Fire Ginseng, 3, Alright. Once we obtain the fire ginseng, we will kill that Lu Mei. The freak gritted his teeth. Humph. She had to be prepared to die since she dared to humiliate Shuer. Shuer, these teams aren't weak. There are a few teams that seem to be determined to obtain the fire ginseng. Empty led everyone over and sat down beside Len Ruoxue as he whispered. No, I must get the fire ginseng. Len Ruoxue reminded. Why? Empty asked in puzzlement. Shuer had so many natural treasures, so she shouldn't lack a fire ginseng, right? Head butler Qing Ju gave me a mission. He said that he doesn't have any fire ginseng in his herbs. Len Ruoxue said helplessly. Oh, that's true. Empty nodded his head. He was very clear about Qing Ju's herbalism. Miss, the tent is ready. Shall we prepare dinner? Feng suddenly asked at that time. Yes, I'm going to rest for a while. Len Ruoxue nodded her head before entering the tent. Shuer, do you have another plan? The demon also came in and asked with a mischievous smile. Hee, just now Qing Ju told me that the fire ginseng is in the cave. Let's go in and take it out. Len Ruoxue laughed lightly. Then, she summoned Ling Tian and instructed him to cast an invisibility spell on them. The two of them then swaggered into the cave. One couldn't even see their own fingers inside the cave. Len Ruoxue and the freak held hands as they slowly walked inside. Master, do you want me to light a small flame? Feng Zhan, who was standing on Len Ruoxue's shoulder, asked softly. No need, don't alert the guardian beast inside, Len Ruoxue said. Sigh. Who knows what kind of guardian beast was inside, causing the people outside to not dare to enter. Qing Ju also had a serious expression. Oh. Feng Zhan responded softly and didn't say anything else to avoid alerting the enemy. As Len Ruoxue and the freak walked on, they realized the fog was getting thicker and thicker. Moreover, there was poison in the fog. Len Ruoxue quickly took out 3 detoxification pills from her bracelet and gave one each to the freak and Feng Zhan. She also took one herself, then the 3 of them continued to walk inside. Suddenly, dong! Len Ruoxue kicked something. She subconsciously looked down and realized it was a bone of some unknown creature. Moreover, it wasn't just a bone on the ground. Shuer, be careful. The freak hugged Shuer's waist tightly and reminded. Len Ruoxue suppressed the feeling of nausea and continued to walk in with the demon. Finally, after walking for an unknown period of time, the two of them arrived at a spacious stone chamber. The stone chamber before them was so clean that not a single speck of dust could be seen. On top of that, there were no traces of humans living in it at all. Other than a pool, there was nothing else in the stone chamber. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. The two of them came to the side of the pool and saw that it was filled with fiery red crystals. In the middle of the crystals was a palm-sized fire ginseng. At this moment, the small leaves of the fire ginseng were trembling non-stop. It was unknown if it was because of the wind or because of fear. Len Ruoxue looked at the cute little fire ginseng and couldn't help but reach out to touch its leaves. However, she was stopped by the freak. Be careful. We don't know where the guardian beast is hiding, the freak said cautiously as his bright eyes searched the empty stone room. Master, this little fellow is afraid. Feng Zhan carefully observed the little fire ginseng before speaking with extreme certainty. Scared? Could it be that it already has intelligence? Len Ruoxue guessed with a face full of suspicion. If it really had a spirit, then she could not let this fire ginseng stay here. After thinking for a while, Len Ruoxue directly asked, Little fire ginseng, if you can understand my words, shake your leaves. As soon as Len Ruoxue finished speaking, the cute leaves of the fire ginseng started to shake violently, as if afraid she would not understand. Ah! It seems that it really has intelligence. Len Ruoxue said with joy. A fire ginseng that could produce intelligence, even if it wasn't 10,000 years old, it would be several thousand years old. Sister, don't eat me. At this time, a childish voice sounded in Leng Ruoxiu's ears. Don't worry, I won't eat you. I'm here to help you. Leng Ruoxiu quickly comforted. Really? Sister is a good person, the childish voice said happily. You idiot, how many times have I told you not to trust humans so easily? A slightly louder childish voice roared with a hint of disappointment. Ah. There are good humans too. Leng Ruoxiu couldn't help but defend the humans. Sigh. Could it be that he's another young nationalist? Humph. How can we believe the words of a human? The childish voice said stubbornly. It was obvious that it did not have a good impression of a human. Little Flame, I believe this sister is a good person, the childish voice said with slight grievance. In your eyes, is there anything bad? The little flame roared furiously. Boo-hoo, don't cry. Little fire ginseng, is Little Flame your guardian beast? Leng Ruoxiu coaxed helplessly. Sigh. This isn't another crybaby. Yes, I'm too stupid. Little Flame has been the one protecting me, the little fire ginseng said somewhat embarrassedly. Its small leaves shook again. Humph. You also know that you're stupid. Little Flame roared through gritted teeth. Boo-hoo. Little Flame is so fierce. The little fire ginseng felt extremely wronged, and its leaves trembled even more violently. Little Flame, where are you? Come out and let's talk. Leng Ruoxiu helplessly said to Little Flame when she saw the two little guys fighting again. Human, I'm here. A fiery red transparent little head popped out from the middle of the pool's crystal stone just as Little Flame's voice fell. A pair of similarly fiery red eyes stared fixedly at Leng Ruoxiu. You're Little Flame. Leng Ruoxiu said in disbelief. This Little Flame was a small snake. However, this small snake was a little too beautiful. Its entire body was fiery red in a transparent shape. It looked like a glass-type jade, sparkling and translucent. Moreover, it was small and exquisite. No matter how one looked at it, it looked cute. Chapter 696, Nian Fire Ginseng, 4, N, Im this stupid fire ginseng's companion beast. Little Flame said with slight dissatisfaction. Even though it didn't know how these two people broke through the poisonous fog it set up and entered this stone room, since these two people could enter, then they probably could only surrender. Who asked it to promise that stupid fire ginseng? I'm not stupid. Boo-hoo. Before Leng Ruoxiu could say anything, she saw a fat child suddenly appear in front of her and the freak and rebutted Little Flame's words. Boo-hoo. He could call himself stupid but not Little Flame. This fat child was about a year old. He was a little clumsy, fair and fat. He had a pair of big eyes that were as bright as black grapes. His long eyelashes were like two small fans that protected his clear eyes in the middle. He was only wearing a red bellyband and had a small braid on his head. He looked very likable. You are, Leng Ruoxiu looked at the fat baby in front of her and was extremely happy. However, she was not sure if this was the legendary ginseng baby. If this little baby was a little fire ginseng, wouldn't he be 10,000 years old? Sister, I'm a small fire ginseng, the chubby baby said in a childish voice. Oh, he liked the smell on this sister's body. It made him want to get close to her. Ha! Little fire ginseng is so cute. Leng Ruoxiu couldn't help but pick up the chubby baby and said happily. Oh! This little fellow is as white and fat as Qingju. However, Qingju is too serious, while this little fellow is as pure as a piece of white paper, hee hee. Leng Ruoxiu couldn't help but touch and pinch this cute little guy. Schwer. The freak softly said with slight dissatisfaction. His dark starry eyes were filled with resentment. Eh. Hee hee. Leng Ruoxiu laughed awkwardly. Then, she stopped eating its tofu and said seductively, "Little fire ginseng, it's not safe here. You'll be discovered at any time. Why don't you leave with me?" After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking like a big bad wolf trying to abduct Little Red Riding Hood, she stopped talking and waited quietly for the little guy to make a decision. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Little Fire Ginseng's eyes met with the little red snake's. They looked at each other, then nodded their cute little heads and said, "I believe sister is a good person. I'm willing to leave this place with elder sister. Woman, you are not allowed to bully the little fire ginseng, and you are not allowed to eat it." Little Red Snake warned with a sharp gaze after hearing the little fire ginseng's words. Humph. Even though its strength was not high, the poison in its body could even poison a mystic supremacy to death. How could Big Sister bear to eat such a cute little doll? 2 drops of cold sweat dripped down Leng Ruoxue's forehead as she speechlessly said. However, she quite admired the little red snake's protective behavior. Humph. It's best if you don't. Remember what you said. Otherwise, I won't let you off even if I die, said the little red snake fiercely. Then, it showed its sharp fangs in a show of force to prove that what it said was true. Ha, I love cute little animals and little children the most. Leng Ruoxue handed the little fire ginseng to the freak, then lifted the little red snake with her hand and guaranteed. Actually, she did not really like snakes. However, this little snake was so beautiful that it was impossible not to love it. Looking at the sparkling and translucent fiery red snake, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but reach out a finger to stroke the snake's body. It was cool and soft, it felt good to touch. "Woman, don't touch me." Little Red Snake growled shyly, as if its entire body was on fire. Leng Ruoxue's hand trembled and 2 black lines appeared on her forehead. Could it be that snakes were also shy? And this little snake was obviously shy. Ha! Elder sister, Little Fire Ginseng is embarrassed, the Little Fire Ginseng said very honestly. However, it received a big eye roll from Little Red Snake. "Oh, haha. Elder sister will bring you to a good place." Leng Ruoxue saw that the little fellow was really shy, so she kindly stopped teasing them. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. "What kind of good place?" the little fire ginseng asked curiously. "You'll know when you get there. You'll definitely like it there," Leng Ruoxue said with a mysterious expression. After that, with a thought, she brought the freak and the 3 little guys into the bracelet. After entering the bracelet, the little fire ginseng and the little red snake looked at everything in front of them with their mouths agape. They blinked their eyes hard. After confirming that everything in front of them was not an illusion, they all stared at Leng Ruoxue in disbelief and said in unison, "Where is this? Hee hee. Welcome our new members." Before Leng Ruoxue could reply, Qing Ju appeared in front of them. The little black dog and Horror also appeared with him. "You. Ah. You're also a sprite." The little fire ginseng stared with its big bright eyes and said with a face full of surprise. Even though it could not tell what the little baby and the little black dog, which were about the same size as itself, were, it could tell at a glance that the little red kitten was also a sprite. Yes, I am Mommy's darling. My name is Horror," Horror said proudly. Then, she jumped into Leng Ruoxue's arms and rubbed against her affectionately. "Ah. Elder sister is your mother. But, sister is clearly a human." The little fire ginseng blinked its big eyes, its cute little face full of question marks. "That's right. She's my mother. The first person I saw when I opened my eyes was her," Little Flame said proudly. "You are so lucky," said the little fire ginseng enviously. He knew that his sister was a good person. "Stupid fire ginseng, you're looking down on me." The little red snake was unhappy upon hearing the little fire ginseng's words. This was because the first creature it saw when it opened its eyes was it. No. Little Flame is the best," the little fire ginseng hurriedly said. Humph. At least you know your place. Little Red Snake said arrogantly. Ha! The two of you are so cute. By the way, Little Fire Ginseng, how did you get discovered? Leng Ruoxua asked in confusion. Since Little Fire Ginseng had a companion beast and had cultivated to human form, logically speaking, it shouldn't be discovered. It's all this fool's fault. He went to save someone out of the goodness of his heart, but his good intentions were not rewarded. He was targeted, said Little Red Snake angrily. Chapter 697, Expensive Entry Fees, 1, After Leng Ruoxua heard Little Red Snake's words, her gaze turned towards the depressed Little Fire Ginseng. Not long ago, someone broke into the cave and was injured by the poisonous fog. I gave him a ginseng root and he promised us that he wouldn't reveal our whereabouts. However, I didn't expect, the Little Fire Ginseng explained, but its voice became softer and softer. Idiot! How can you believe the words of a human? Little Flame roared angrily, its face full of disappointment. There are good humans too. Elder sister is one. Little Fire Ginseng explained softly. Of course there are good people among humans, but the problem is, Little Fire Ginseng, your temptation towards humans is too great, so, Leng Ruoxua stopped halfway, she believed Little Fire Ginseng would understand. Sister, I know my own value. I don't dare to be nosy anymore. Hee, can we live here in the future? Little Fire Ginseng asked expectantly. Of course. From now on, this will be your home. Leng Ruoxua looked at the sensible Little Fire Ginseng and said with heartache. Thank you, sister, the Little Fire Ginseng said happily. Woman, I can also live here. Little Red Snake could not help but confirm. Yes. Leng Ruoxua nodded. Since this Little Red Snake was the Little Fire Ginseng's companion beast, it definitely wouldn't be willing to part with it. Thank you, woman. Those flame crystals outside are good stuff. Don't forget to take them, reminded Little Red Snake. Okay. Leng Ruoxua nodded. Hee, Little Snake, I was wondering why there weren't any flame crystals in such a huge volcano. So it was you guys who collected them. Oh right, do you have the flame crystal core? At this moment, Feng, who was on Leng Ruoxua's shoulder, asked. Yes, there's one. It's buried under those fire crystals. Little Red Snake nodded and said. Hee. This is really great. Feng said happily. Master's luck was really good. She actually found another fire crystal core. Qing Ju, bring the two little ones around. I'm going out first, Leng Ruoxua instructed. After speaking, she brought the freak out of the bracelet. After the two of them left the bracelet, they stored all the flame crystals in the pool into the bracelet. They then walked back the way they came. At this time, the teams outside the cave had already started to eat dinner. Feng De and the others had also finished preparing dinner and were waiting for Leng Ruoxua and the freak. Leng Ruoxua and the freak returned to the tent and removed their invisibility. Empty's voice suddenly sounded behind them. Where did you guys go? We went to look for the fire ginseng. Leng Ruoxua smiled. You two baddies, you went to look for the fire ginseng but didn't call me along. Empty said with a bitter face. Hee, isn't it inconvenient? There are so many people outside. If the three of us enter the same tent and don't leave for a long time, there might be rumors spreading. Leng Ruoxua helplessly said. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. What's there to be afraid of? If anyone dares to say anything, just kill them. Empty said indifferently. Humph. He didn't care about those people outside at all. Ugh. Cold sweat dripped down Leng Ruoxua's forehead, he was getting more and more violent. Schwer, have you found the fire ginseng? Empty continued to ask. Leng Ruoxua nodded happily. Where is it? Let me take a look. I heard from the people outside that the fire ginseng seems to have developed intelligence. Empty said with a face full of excitement and swept away his previous resentment. Empty. It's not like you haven't seen a sprite before. Is there a need to be so excited? The freak said helplessly. Ah. I've never seen a fire ginseng before. Empty said matter-of-factly. Oh, here you go. Leng Ruoxue smiled wickedly as she moved the little fire ginseng out of the bracelet and into Empty's arms. Schwer, what's this? What I want to see is a fire ginseng. Why did you give me a child? Empty said in shock. Boo-hoo. He did not know how to carry a child. Empty did not know how to let go looking at the innocent child in his arms. You guys look like father and son, the freak teased when he saw Empty panicking. Which family is this child from? Don't tell me you guys gave birth to him. Isn't this speed a little too fast? Empty didn't want to be outdone and retorted hearing the freak's teasing. Humph. He couldn't watch him make a fool of himself, but the little child in her arms was too soft and tender. He didn't even dare to use too much strength. Unfortunately, we didn't give birth to him, the freak said with a face full of pity. Could it be that you kidnapped him? Empty guessed. Oh. It was very possible. Sister is a good person, I left with her willingly, little fire ginseng couldn't help defending Leng Ruoxue. Oh. Empty looked at Leng Ruoxue with a strange expression, feeling even more admiration for her. He's that fire ginseng, Leng Ruoxue explained. Sigh. She didn't want Empty to think too much. Ah. Doesn't that mean you are at least 10,000 years? Empty said in surprise. N. The small fire ginseng nodded. Actually, it was more than 10,000 years old. Ha. Schwer, your luck is so good that there's nothing to say about it. Empty said enviously. Sigh. He really did not know what to say. N, let's go out first. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Everyone was waiting outside. Okay. Wu Jiu returned the baby to Leng Ruoxue and said. Leng Ruoxue placed the little fire ginseng back into her bracelet and the three of them walked out of the tent. Miss, it's time to eat. Feng De quickly shouted after seeing Leng Ruoxue and the other two. N. Leng Ruoxue and the other two walked to the dining table and sat down. However, they felt many strange gazes on them. Hey, I'll pay you guys. Sell your food to me. Leng Ruoxue had just picked up a piece of roasted meat that was golden and fragrant. She heard an unruly and overbearing voice before she could put it into her mouth. I'm sorry, our food isn't for sale. Leng Ruoxue lightly raised her beautiful eyes and looked at the young woman standing in front of them with an arrogant expression. Damn it. Do you know who I am? I'm willing to buy your food because I think highly of you, so don't fail to appreciate my kindness. The woman was livid with rage, and she roared at the top of her lungs. Chapter 698, Expensive Entry Fees, 2. I don't need you to think highly of me, Leng Ruoxue said calmly. Sigh. I really don't understand why people always like to say, do you know who I am? You, don't refuse the face that is given to you. The woman's face was filled with anger as she continued to speak. Fuck off. Suddenly, Fire Phoenix, who was silently eating roasted meat at the side, roared with a displeased expression. After that, she spat out a mouthful of southern spirit flame at the woman without the slightest trace of politeness, and the woman's body instantly burned with flames. Ah! Help! Seeing that her body was on fire, the woman was so frightened that she hurriedly asked for help. Her teammates saw this and hurriedly came forward to help put out the fire. However, no matter what they did, they were unable to put out the fire, and the woman's cries for help grew louder and louder. Don't be so violent. Seeing that, Leng Ruoxue lightly smiled, then threw out a big water ball. Instantly, with a walla sound, the water ball hit the woman, and the flames on her body coincidentally extinguished. After the fire was put out, the frightened woman stood rooted to the ground in a daze. She did not realize that her entire body had turned red. When she came back to her senses, she suddenly realized that everyone was looking at her strangely. At the same time, she realized that she was naked. Ah! The woman ran into her tent and refused to come out. You're much more violent than me. After that woman ran away, the fire phoenix couldn't help but feel uneasy in its heart. Actually, its flames just now were just to scare that woman. Even if it didn't extinguish her flames, she wouldn't die, and after extinguishing her flames, she would definitely be exposed. Hee hee. After Len Ruoxue and the others killed the chicken to warn the monkeys, those who originally had the same thoughts as the woman no longer dared to step forward. Instead, they resigned themselves to their fate and began to eat the rations they brought. However, their hearts were bleeding. Woo, they were all camping, but why was it that others could only eat hot food while they could only eat dry rations? This was too unfair. After eating, everyone should rest early. Len Ruoxue ignored everyone's gazes and calmly said to Feng De and the rest. Yes, yes. Feng De and the others nodded. After dinner, Len Ruoxue and the others returned to their tents, while the fire fox couple volunteered to keep watch. The next morning. The moment Len Ruoxue and the freak came out of the tent, they felt a gaze filled with hatred. Schwer, looks like someone is seeking death. The freak glanced at the lady who had left yesterday and laughed softly. I don't mind them fighting each other. Len Ruoxue said indifferently. Her beautiful eyes lightly swept across everyone present. Humph. If these people were too greedy, then next year's day would be their death anniversary. Yesterday, she had already understood from the little red snake's mouth that after they left the cave, the poisonous fog that had gathered in the cave would automatically disperse. After one night, the poisonous fog would most likely be gone. And once these people found out about the situation inside, they would probably lose their minds and rush in. Miss, breakfast is ready. At this time, Feng De walked over and reminded her. Len Ruoxue pulled the freak to the table and sat down. Just as she took a few mouthfuls of porridge, she suddenly heard someone shouting. The poisonous fog has dissipated. When everyone heard that, they couldn't care less about the rations in their hands and quickly stood up excitedly. Only Len Ruoxue and the others were still calmly eating the food in their hands. You really are an idiot. You shouted so loudly. Doesn't that mean everyone knows? Said the fire phoenix who was eating with a face full of disdain. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Even if he doesn't call out, others will still know. Len Ruoxue understood. There were so many people here, yet there was only one entrance. It was impossible to avoid others entering, unless they could also hide themselves. Didn't you guys also want the fire ginseng? Why aren't you going in? Suddenly, Lu Mai's voice sounded. Are you blind? We are having breakfast. Can't you see that? Feng De said unhappily. Hee, we don't need to trouble Miss Lu. However, if you don't go in and your team obtains the fire ginseng, you won't have anything to do with it, Len Ruoxue reminded. From the corner of her eye, she could already see several teams enter the cave, including Lu Mai's team. Humph. Well, definitely get the fire ginseng, Lu Mei said confidently. With that said, she followed her team into the cave. Miss, why don't we just kill her? Feng De made a throat-slitting gesture and said. That woman was really annoying. She always wanted to find trouble with his Mississippi. He really didn't know how his miss had offended her. Feng De. We are law-abiding children, how can we just casually kill people? Furthermore, even if we don't make a move, she might not be able to leave this place alive. Len Ruoxue said sincerely. Oh. We cannot develop a bad habit of killing people. Ah. 2 drops of cold sweat dripped down from Feng De's forehead. He thought to himself, is there a law in this world? Which law isn't determined by the strong? After all, this is a world where the strong reign supreme. Miss, are we going in later? The male fire fox couldn't help but snicker when he saw Feng being humiliated. Then, he asked curiously. Eat first. Food is the most important thing for the people. Nothing is more important than food. Leng Ruoxue half ordered. Yes, replied the male fire fox. Then, he started eating the roasted meat in front of him. After breakfast, more than half an hour had passed. At this time, only their team was left outside the cave. Seeing that there was no one around, Leng Ruoxue willed everyone and the beast into her bracelet. Sister. Feeling Leng Ruoxue's little fire ginseng, she ran over with her chubby little legs and threw herself into Leng Ruoxue's arms. Shuer, whose child is this? Leng Qingtian widened his eyes and asked in disbelief. When did the space have another baby? Ha! Grandfather, he's the fire ginseng. From now on, he'll be called Sun Sun, Leng Ruoxue explained with a smile. She hadn't even had the chance to report to her grandfather and the others that she had abducted the fire ginseng. Chapter 699, Expensive Entry Fee, 3, Miss, you are too awesome. Feng said with a face full of admiration. His admiration for his miss was like the endless waves of a river. Could this be the legendary ginseng baby? It's really too cute. Come, let big brother hug it. Leng Ruhan's handsome face was full of love as he said and took the small fire ginseng from Leng Ruoxue's hands. The smell on big brother's body is also very nice, the little fire ginseng said sweetly. His cute little appearance quickly won everyone's affection and love. Come, let grandpa hug you too. Leng Qingtian also started fighting with his grandson. When Leng Qingtian was done hugging them, Feng De and the others started fighting for more. Little fire fox, do you have a name? Leng Ruoxue saw that everyone was fighting to contact little fire ginseng, so she turned her gaze to the fire fox couple and asked. Miss, we don't have a name. The fire fox couple looked at each other and said in unison. Oh. Then the male fire fox will be called Hui Yen from now on, and the female fire fox will be called Hui Shi from now on. Leng Ruoxue thought for a while and said. She couldn't call them all little fire. She already had a little fire, and with the addition of the little fire ginseng, she also called that little red snake little flame. Ah. If there were too many little fires, she wouldn't know who she would be addressing. Thank you for granting us a name, young miss. The two fire foxes happily said. Woman, I don't have a name either. Little red snake crawled onto Leng Ruoxue's wrist and said with a bitter expression. Ah. Aren't you called Little Flame? Leng Ruoxue said with a slight headache. Boo-hoo, it was tiring to come up with a name. Moreover, she felt it was quite good to have one little fire and one little flame. Can that be considered a name? I don't care. You have to give me a nice name, said the little red snake domineeringly. Why don't we call you Fireball? Leng Ruoxue probed. She really couldn't think of anything else. I don't look like a ball. The little red snake glared at him with displeasure. I think it's better to call it Hot Pot. The freak said lightly. When Leng Ruoxue heard the freak's words, a few black lines rolled down her forehead. She secretly laughed to herself. Who would call a beast a hot pot? Hee hee. No. Little red snake frowned and objected. The name was really unpleasant even though it did not know what hot pot was. Ah. You should call yourself Little Flame for now. I'll change it when I think of a good name, Leng Ruoxue suggested. This little fellow was too hard to serve, so she had to coax him. All right then. The little red snake nodded in dissatisfaction. Sister, I don't have a name either. The little fire fox, who had been lying in its mother's arms, whispered. Aren't you called Little Fox? That's a nice name. Leng Ruoxue hurriedly cajoled. Boo-hoo. The heavens can judge. She really didn't want to give names anymore. It was even more tiring than cultivating a profound technique. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Oh. The little fire fox nodded obediently and stopped making things difficult for Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue felt a little guilty seeing how sensible the little fire fox was. However, she quickly turned her gaze to the fire phoenix and asked, "Little fire phoenix, you should have a name." The fire phoenix, who was looking around and sizing up the surroundings, nodded and said after hearing Leng Ruoxue, "My name is Feng Miao." After it finished speaking, it continued to size her up and was secretly shocked. On this side, Feng Miao and the other beasts were busy touring the space while Ling Qing Tian and the others were all fighting to carry the little fire ginseng. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but shake her head helplessly when she saw this, then she said to the freak and Empty, "Let's go out and take a look." The two nodded, and the three of them left the bracelet. After leaving the bracelet, the three of them entered the cave. The light in the cave was still dim. Even though the fog had dissipated, the smell of blood filled the entire cave. Leng Ruoxue covered her nose and hung on the freak's arm. The three of them arrived at the stone room where the little fire ginseng used to live. In the stone room, other than the corpse on the ground, there was no one else breathing. It could be seen how intense the battle was not long ago, especially the pool where the little fire ginseng was planted. It was packed with people. Unfortunately, the person who obtained the little fire ginseng in the end also died because he was too heavily injured. However, before he died, his hand was still tightly holding the half of the little fire ginseng that didn't have much use. Truly, humans die for wealth, birds die for food. Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh. Sigh. If it wasn't for their greed, these people wouldn't have all died here. Unfortunately, the little fire ginseng had already given birth to a sprite, and its true essence was all in the little fire ginseng's body. So, that old fire ginseng didn't have much use anymore. I wonder if those people would die aggrieved if they found out that what they were snatching over was useless. Shuer, is this Lu Mei? Empty, who was wandering around, suddenly asked. N. Leng Ruoxue and the freak came to the side of Empty. They looked at the woman who was lying on the ground with her face almost completely disfigured and nodded. Oh. She was right. This Lu Mei did not survive. It seems like these dogs are quite fierce, the freak said in a good mood. The woman who had humiliated Shuer had died, which saved him a lot of trouble. The three of them looked around casually and found another familiar corpse not far away. It was the woman who was burned red by Feng Miao's flames. Shuer, looks like we don't need to do anything. Empty smiled and said. Oh. The charm of the fire ginseng is really not small. Yes, we can leave now. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, the three of them left the cave. After leaving the cave, Leng Ruoxue and the others wandered around the fiery mountain for a few days and collected all the herbs nearby. Then, everyone left the fiery mountain excitedly. Leng Ruoxue and the rest went south of the fiery mountain. 3 days later, they arrived at the nearest small city, Shadow City. Shuer, even though this Shadow City is small, no one dares to look down on it. Standing outside the Shadow City, the little old man looked at the city wall that was half the height of a person and said mysteriously. Why? As expected, Leng Ruoxue's curiosity was piqued and she asked. Miss, the entrance fee for Shadow City is very expensive. Even a mystic supremacy would not be allowed to enter if you don't pay up. A sexy and beautiful woman next to Leng Ruoxue spoke. This beauty was none other than Feng Miao, who Feng De and the others called a shrew. Chapter 700, Expensive Entry Fee, 4, How expensive is it? Lu Tao could not hold back her curiosity. 10,000 purple coins per person. Feng Miao looked at everyone and spoke calmly. What? Why don't they just go and rob? Feng De couldn't help but roar when he heard that. The city guard who heard Feng Das roar only glanced at them indifferently. However, he ignored them because they were already used to it. Anyone who entered the city for the first time would have such a reaction. Their daylight robbery. But you have no choice but to give it, unless you don't want to enter the city anymore. Feng Miao sighed lightly and explained somewhat helplessly. Miss, what should we do? Are we still entering the city? Lu Tao could not help but ask. The entrance fee was really too expensive. Ordinary people could not afford it. Come in, I want to see if this city is worth it, Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. She didn't expect the guards at the city gate to all have the cultivation of mystic sovereign. Now, she was really looking forward to this shadow city. Hopefully, it wouldn't disappoint her. But there are so many of us. The cost of entering the city is not a small sum, said Lu Tao worriedly. Ooh. It was not easy for Miss to earn some money. She had to pay hundreds of thousands of yuan in one go. Just thinking about it made her heart ache. Miss, why don't you send us into the space? Cui Zhu suggested. No, if that's the case, you can only stay in the space after entering the city. You can't appear in Shadow City anymore, Feng Miao explained. Swear, every person who enters the city has an identity card. If not, the little old man only said half of what he wanted to say. However, he believed that Shuer would understand what he meant. It's all right, let's all go in together. Leng Ruoxue smiled and said. Everyone came out to train and this shadow city was so mysterious. If she didn't let everyone experience it, it might be a pity. Okay. Everyone nodded and walked towards the city gate. We are going to enter the city, Leng Ruoxue said indifferently when they arrived at the city gate. A total of 350,000 purple coins. The city guard looked up and spoke. 350,000? There are so many of us, aren't we going to give a discount? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. I'm sorry, we didn't give any discounts. The guard said with a slight frown. He couldn't help but feel nervous in his heart. He had never heard of anyone asking for discounts for entry fees. Hee, there's a first time for everything. There are so many of us here, so let's not ask for a fraction. Just charge us 300,000. Leng Ruoxue smiled lightly. The guard hesitated. Even though there was no precedent of discounts in Shadow City, the higher-ups did not say that discounts were not allowed. However, he was just a small guard and could not make the decision. If you can't enter the city, then don't. What a disgrace. Just as the guard was hesitating, an inharmonious female voice suddenly interrupted and looked at Leng Ruoxue and the others with disdain. When Leng Ruoxue heard this voice, she couldn't help but roll her eyes. She thought to herself, how could I meet such a retarded daughter from a rich family everywhere I go? Whether she can enter or not, what does it have to do with anyone else? Could it be that the words easy to bully were written all over her face? If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Miss, I think I heard a dog barking. Feng De dug his ears and pretended to be puzzled. Ignore dogs you don't know, Leng Ruoxue said softly. Miss, I'm best at killing dogs. Should I kill her? Feng Miao suggested, her beautiful face full of ruthlessness. No need, it will dirty your hands, Leng Ruoxue disagreed. Oh, that's true. Feng Miao nodded in agreement. She narrowed her eyes and sized up that reckless woman. What are you looking at, you ugly freak? Haven't you seen a beauty before? That woman felt uncomfortable all over from Feng Miao's gaze and couldn't help roaring. Ah! Feng Miao was stunned. Was the ugly freak talking about her? Fine. She admitted that she wasn't as pretty as Miss, or even as pretty as that bitch from the Phoenix clan, but she couldn't be called an ugly freak, could she? What kind of eyes did this woman have? The woman's words instantly attracted Leng Ruoxue and the others' attention. Ah! They had never seen such a narcissistic woman before. Moreover, everyone was curious about her appearance. Only to see that the girl not far away had a delicate and pretty appearance, an average temperament, and her strength was not very high either. Furthermore, this kind of appearance and strength girl could be said to be everywhere in the vast heaven continent. Therefore, they really did not know why this woman was so proud. After seeing this woman's appearance, Feng and the others couldn't help but feel uneasy in their hearts. Truly, there was always someone better out there, and there was always someone better out there. Today, they finally saw a super narcissistic woman. On the other hand, the woman who was being watched by the crowd was feeling pleased with herself. She even raised her chin high, almost sticking out her tail, if she had any. "Miss, let's hurry into the city. Young Master Lan is still waiting in the city." At this moment, the guard by the woman's side reminded her in a soft voice. Alas! Miss didn't have good eyesight, and he wasn't stupid. These people looked to be filled with killing intent, and it was obvious that they weren't to be trifled with. So, he had no choice but to find an excuse to urge his Mississippi, "Why didn't you say so earlier? I can't let Brother Lon wait for too long. Let's hurry up and leave." The woman complained. Then, she ordered her subordinates to pay the entrance fee and walked into Shadow City with her head held high. However, before she left, she gave Len Ruoxue and the others a threatening look. "Miss, are you going to let her go just like that?" Feng said, a little angrily. "What else can I do? What's there to be calculative about with this kind of self-righteous woman? Even if I kill her, I'll feel ashamed," Len Ruoxue said in extreme disdain. Sigh. There are many women like this in the world. She can't kill every single one of them. Moreover, as her cultivation level increased, she couldn't even be interested in killing this kind of ant-like woman unless she was really courting death. "Miss, you have a point." Feng quickly flattered. "You can pay 300,000 to enter the city." Suddenly, the guard spoke. Chapter 701, I Want That Bracelet, 1, Thank you, Big Brother Guard. Len Ruoxue thanked him and paid the entrance fee before leading everyone into the Shadow City. Shadow City was not big. It was even smaller than Windless City, the first city they had been to. Furthermore, there were not many pedestrians on the streets. However, there were many shops on both sides of the street, and all kinds of items could be said to be present. Len Ruoxue and the others originally planned to walk around the city, but in less than 2 hours, they had already walked all over the city. "Miss, Shadow City is really small." Lu Tao couldn't help but sigh. And, even though the Shadow City is small, it has everything. The things sold in those shops might not even be able to be bought in some big cities. Len Ruoxue said knowingly. It seemed that their 300,000 yuan entrance fee was not for nothing. At least, she was very satisfied with the things sold in this city. "Ha, lass, this Shadow City is known as only you can't think of it, there's nothing you can't buy. Besides, there are many things here that can't be seen in public," the little old man said in a low voice. "Cannot be seen in public? Thieves?" Len Ruoxue was shocked. Could this be the legendary black market? Yes, yes. The little old man nodded. "Who is the owner of the Shadow City?" Len Ruoxue asked curiously. This person was really smart. However, he was probably not weak. Otherwise, he would not dare to sell stolen goods. After all, the profits from such a transaction were huge. However, it was easy to offend the big families. Therefore, if the owner of the Shadow City did not have a certain power, he would not dare to open a black market that specialized in collecting stolen goods. "I don't know. Shadow City has already stood towering in the boundless heaven continent for thousands of years. No one knows who Master is," the little old man shook his head and said. "Oh." Len Ruoxue did not expect the owner of Shadow City to be so mysterious. "Swear, although no one has seen the owner of this Shadow City before, even the 3 super families would treat the people of Shadow League with respect. Empty smiled and explained. Shadow League? Leng Ruoxu's face was full of question marks. This sounded like an organization. Swear, the Shadow League is the manager of the Shadow City. The Shadow League was established by the owner of the Shadow City. If you want to sell some shady things, you just have to find a shop. Furthermore, all the shops here belong to the Shadow League. Therefore, no one knows that you sold those things. After all, the reputation of the Shadow League is still guaranteed, the little old man reminded. Ah. I really have some things that can't be seen in the light, Leng Ruoxue said rather awkwardly. Thinking back to when she first came to the vast heaven continent, she also robbed quite a bit of others. Then let's find a random shop and sell the items, the little old man suggested. Leng Ruoxue nodded, then led everyone into the nearest shop. This was a pharmacy. At this moment, there was only one attendant in the shop. When he saw the group of people, he hurriedly went forward to greet them. Hello guests, may I know what medicinal ingredients you would like to purchase? We have the most complete set of medicinal ingredients here. The waiter had a face full of smiles as he spoke in an extremely polite manner. He did not neglect Leng Ruoxue and the others because they were wearing ordinary clothes. What medicinal herbs do you have here? Leng Ruoxue asked with a light smile. Sigh. This Shadow City is really full of talents. The guards guarding the city and the attendants of the shops are all mystic emperors. How could the various clans endure this? I don't dare to say that the medicinal herbs in our store can satisfy Miss needs 100%, but I can guarantee that the medicinal herbs that Miss wants can be bought with me at least 90%, the waiter said confidently. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Oh, Grandpa Do, what other herbs do you need? Leng Ruoxue turned to the little old man and asked. Swear, let's take whatever medicinal herbs he has. The little old man thought for a moment and said. There were a total of 4 alchemists among them, and the demand for medicinal herbs was quite large, especially ordinary medicinal herbs. Therefore, if they could buy more, they naturally had to buy more. Alright, pack all the medicinal herbs here for me. After Leng Ruoxue heard the little old man's words, she turned to the waiter and said. Ah. Miss, the herbs in our shop will be slightly more expensive than those outside. If you take all of them, you will need a lot of money. The waiter kindly reminded her. He had been managing the shop for so long, but he had never met such a generous customer. Although there were many people from various large families who came here to buy herbs. It doesn't matter, as long as it's worth it, Leng Ruoxue said calmly. If it was in another city, she wouldn't have the intention to buy so many herbs at once. However, she didn't have so many worries here. After all, Shadow City was different from other cities. Don't worry, Miss will definitely not regret it. Everyone, please follow me. The waiter guaranteed before bringing Leng Ruoxue and the others to the storeroom. The storeroom was located in the backyard of the medicine shop. It was a very inconspicuous small room. Other than an iron cabinet, there was nothing else inside. Miss, all the herbs in our store are here. Take a look first. If there are no problems, as long as you pay, these herbs will be yours. The waiter took out a few storage rings from the cabinet and handed one of them to Leng Ruoxue for inspection. Leng Ruoxue took the ring and sent her divine sense into it. After that, she nodded in satisfaction and said, not bad. I want it all. Here are some relatively expensive herbs. Naturally, the price is higher too. The waiter handed over another ring. Leng Ruoxue took the ring and confirmed it before handing it to the little old man. After the little old man looked at it, he nodded in satisfaction. How much do these herbs cost? Leng Ruoxue asked. 58 billion purple coins, but 5 billion will do. The waiter laughed. Hee, now that he had made a big deal, he was in a good mood. After all, His medicine shop hadn't opened for a long time, boo-hoo. And, I'll stay in this city for a few days. If I haven't left yet and you guys have new medicinal herbs, remember to inform me, Leng Ruoxue instructed. She handed over a common silver card of the boundless heaven continent to the attendant, which happened to have 1.5 billion in it. Chapter 702. I want that bracelet, too. After receiving the silver card, the waiter confirmed the amount on it. Then, he handed Leng Ruoxue a black card and said happily, definitely, definitely. Miss, this is the VIP card of our Shadow League. With this card, everyone can stay in Shadow City for free and enjoy priority. Thank you. Leng Ruoxue received the silver card and kept it in her bracelet. Then, she said to the waiter, I heard you guys also accept things here. Ah. Yes, but it has to be something valuable. The waiter nodded his head in doubt. He thought to himself, could it be that this lady wants to sell something? I can't believe it. Such a beautiful lady actually has something shady. How rare. Can you take a look at these things? Leng Ruoxue took out a storage ring from her bracelet and handed it to the waiter. Miss, I can't make the decision on these things. Please wait for a moment, I'll go get the housekeeper. The waiter took the ring and looked at it before saying to Leng Ruoxue with a troubled expression. Okay. Leng Ruoxue nodded and followed the waiter to the living room. After finding a seat, the waiter went to look for the housekeeper. However, after waiting for more than half an hour, the waiter still hadn't returned. Miss, could this attendant have run away? Seeing that the guard left and did not return, Feng could not help but tease. This is someone else's territory, what's there to run about? Leng Ruoxue laughed. Hee hee. If she wasn't wrong, the housekeeper was probably raising money. After all, the things she wanted to sell were worth a lot of money. Ha, I'm sorry for making everyone wait. Just as Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, an extremely forthright voice rang out by their ears. Shortly after, a robust middle-aged man walked in with large strides. The middle-aged man had a resolute appearance. He was burly and possessed an extraordinary presence. With a single glance, one could tell that he was someone who had occupied a high position for a long time. Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up this middle-aged man. However, she could not see his cultivation level. However, according to her guess, this person's strength should be above Xian Emperor. It's fine. Leng Ruoxue and the others stood up from their seats and lightly nodded their heads. Ha! Everyone, please take a seat, the middle-aged man said enthusiastically. I'm Tian, the butler of Shadow City. The middle-aged man introduced himself. My surname is Leng. Housekeeper Yu, I have some things I want to take care of. Leng Ruoxue went straight to the point. Yes, I've heard about it. However, I have to be frank. The price of our items in the Shadow City is not high. Therefore, if you think it's not worth it, you can choose not to sell it to us, Yu Tian said honestly with a sincere expression. I know. But, if I don't sell it to you guys, I'm afraid that no one in the vast heaven continent would dare to buy these things either, Leng Ruoxue said knowingly. Ha! Young Lady Leng is right, Yu Tian said happily. He admired the straightforwardness of this stunning beauty in front of him. After all, their Shadow City's business had always adhered to the principle of mutual consent. Unless they were in a good mood and were willing to give a discount, they wouldn't accept bargaining. Then please take a look at these things first, Butler Yu. Leng Ruoxue handed the ring she left outside to Yu Tian. Alright. Yu Tian received the ring and sent his divine senses inside. However, even though he was mentally prepared, he was still frightened by the things inside. After all, there were quite a few things inside that were enough to make the various great clans go crazy, and those things couldn't be bought with money. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Young Lady Leng, the items inside are quite valuable. are you really willing to buy them? After Yu Tian finished looking through them, he asked with uncertainty. Of course, the things inside might be priceless to others, but to me, they are useless. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. If it wasn't for the fact that those things were useless and took up space, she wouldn't have wanted to sell them. Since young Lady Leng says so, then I am relieved. Young Lady Leng, I will bid 20 billion purple coins for the items inside. What do you think? Yu Tian probed. They were most afraid of the seller regretting their decision after buying the items as if they had taken advantage of them. However, Leng Ruoxue's reaction had improved his impression of Leng Ruoxue by quite a bit. It had also caused him to change the offer of 15 billion purple coins to 20 billion. Sure. Leng Ruoxue nodded. This price was already higher than she had expected, so she had nothing to be dissatisfied with. Then let's trade. There are 20 billion in here, please confirm it, Miss Leng. After Butler Yu said that, he handed Leng Ruoxue a silver card. After Leng Ruoxue accepted the silver card and confirmed it, their transaction was officially over. Ha, young Lady Leng, if you still have anything to sell, remember to look for me. Our Shadow League is definitely honest and priced fairly. Yu Tian put away the ring and then said to Leng Ruoxue. Okay, if there's anything good, I will definitely think of Butler Yu, Leng Ruoxue promised. Young Lady Leng, do you have anything else you want to buy? Our Shadow City has a ruler. Yu Tian asked very amicably. Yes, there are still some. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Ha! If young Lady Leng wants to buy anything else, just tell me. I'll send someone to get it so that young Lady Leng doesn't have to look for it herself. Yu Tian said considerately. Then I'll have to thank Butler Yu first. Actually, I still want to buy some materials for refining weapons. Also, do you have any mystic skills for sale? Leng Ruoxue asked after thinking for a while. There are definitely equipment refinement materials, but it's a combat technique. I wonder what attribute young Miss Leng wants. Yu Tian couldn't help but ask. However, he was extremely surprised in his heart. He never expected that young Miss Leng would actually want to buy equipment refinement materials. Could it be that there was a tool master amongst these people? I need all sorts of earth rank and heaven rank techniques, said Leng Ruoxue. Presently, she only possessed the wind attribute earth rank and heaven rank techniques that Yu Lin had given her. Besides that, she didn't have any other attribute techniques. Boo-hoo. They were almost all Mystic Monarch now, but she hadn't gathered all the techniques yet. Moreover, it wasn't that she didn't want to buy them, it was mainly because they weren't for sale. Chapter 703, I want that bracelet. 3. Miss Leng, you've really asked the right person. We do indeed have earth rank and heaven rank techniques of various attributes. However, the price is very high as well, said Yu Tian very honestly. The price doesn't matter. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. The higher the level of a mystic technique, the fewer people would sell it. Therefore, it was not easy to buy the entire set. Ha, since that's the case, then I'll give you a discount. All the attribute techniques added together will be worth 10 billion purple coins. Yu Tian thought for a moment and said. Lass, I don't think you need to buy fire element ones, the little old man suddenly said. You don't need to buy anything with the wind and water attributes, Empty said. Ah. Yu Tian looked at the two who spoke and felt bewildered. Who were these two people? Why couldn't he sense their cultivation? Furthermore, the more he looked at the little old man, the more familiar he felt. However, he couldn't remember where he had seen him before. Housekeeper Yu, your wind, water, and fire are 3 types of earth rank and heaven rank techniques. If we don't have them, I'll buy them too, Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. Other mystic cultivators might only be able to cultivate 1 or 2 heaven rank techniques, but she didn't have such restrictions. That's good. I'll send someone to bring it over and let young Lady Leng take a look first, said Yu Tian. After that, he instructed the attendant of the medicinal shop to prepare it. When the waiter went to retrieve the items, Butler Yu accompanied Leng Ruoxue and the rest as they chatted leisurely. In fact, he originally wanted to find out the truth about these people in front of him. However, after chatting for nearly an hour, not only did he not manage to get anything out of them, he even explained everything to the 8 generations of his ancestors. Boo-hoo. He was so depressed. Luckily, he did not know who the owner of the Shadow League was. Otherwise, he was afraid that even his parents would have to confess everything. Just as Yu Tian was feeling extremely depressed, the waiter finally returned with 2 similarly dressed attendants behind him. Butler Yu, Miss Leng, I've brought her here, the waiter hurriedly said. He stole a glance at Butler Yu's expression and could not help but feel uneasy in his heart. What's wrong with Butler Yu? Wasn't he very happy just now? Could it be that he thought that he was too slow to come back? However, this could not be blamed on him. Young Lady Leng, please take a look. Yu Tian said somewhat gloomily. After which, he indicated for the other 2 to bring the items over. Leng Ruoxue inspected the things that the attendant passed over, and then she glanced at the combat techniques before buying everything at the price of 12 billion violet gold coins. Because the wind, fire, and water techniques that Butler Yu sent over just happened to be different from the little old man Wu He's. After a pleasant shopping session, Leng Ruoxue and the others left the pharmacy. Accompanied by a waiter, they went to the largest guest shop in Shadow City, the Shadow Pavilion. After another round of shopping, Leng Ruoxue and the others had been upgraded to high-class VIPs in the Shadow City. Hence, their food and accommodations in the Shadow Pavilion were all free. In the guest room, Feng had a bitter expression as he looked at the cheerful Leng Ruoxue and couldn't help but ask, Miss, you spent so much money, why are you still so happy? Why else would I cry? I sold those junk for 20 billion, but I only spent 13.5 billion to buy these things. All in all, we are still unhappy, so of course I'm happy. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Swear, do you think those things are trash? However, many aristocratic families view them as treasures. Oh, if the Shadow League sells them, they will be able to earn twice as much. The little old man reminded. It doesn't matter. Since they took a certain risk, it's only right for them to earn some money. Leng Ruoxue said with understanding. Sigh. Those things couldn't be exposed, otherwise she would have long thrown them into the auction house. Ha, lass. You're really open-minded. The little old man nodded his head in satisfaction. He liked this lass carefree character. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Grandpa do, let's go down and eat something later. Try this restaurant's specialty dishes, Leng Ruoxue said with curiosity. On the way here, the waiter had been talking about how delicious the food here was, which piqued her curiosity. Don't wait any longer. Let's go down now. I'm already hungry, the little old man said hurriedly. Okay. Leng Ruoxue nodded. After speaking, everyone headed to the dining hall on the first floor. As soon as they entered the dining room, the waiter hurried over to welcome them. Then, he brought them to the table and went to prepare food for them. Huh. That's weird. Why didn't he ask us what we wanted to eat before leaving? Feng, who had just sat down, asked in puzzlement. He was about to order some dishes when the waiter unexpectedly ignored him. Anyway, we don't have to spend money. We can eat whatever we give, said Peach disapprovingly. In fact, she felt that the waiter was afraid that they would ask for too much. If the food they ordered was too good, their restaurant would be poor, so he did not dare to ask them. Are you going to eat it even if I give you pig food? Feng said speechlessly. Tisk, why would such a big restaurant give customers pig food? Peach's face was full of question marks. It's hard to say. The entrance fee is 10,000 purple coins, and all the shops in the city are black. Feng said angrily. He was still thinking about the 10 billion purple coins that the young miss had spent. Woo! When the young miss spent it, she didn't even frown, but he felt his heart ache. Ah! If it doesn't taste good, then let's not eat it. After hearing Feng Da's words, Peach was also a little scared. Ah! This Shadow City was indeed evil. Ha! Swear, your subordinates are quite imaginative. Wu, who was not far away from Feng Da, couldn't help but laugh at the conversation between the two. That's right. Leng Ruoxue said awkwardly, her forehead dripping with cold sweat. Sigh. These two fellows have so much to eat and so much to talk about. How could they possibly let guests eat pig food here? After all, they were distinguished guests. Fortunately, there were no waiters in the restaurant at the moment. Otherwise, when they heard the discussion of Feng Da and the others, they would definitely be angered to the point of vomiting blood. Woo! These people were high-ranking VIPs. Not to mention eating pig food, they wouldn't even dare to slight them. A moment later, the waiter brought a group of people in with dishes. Chapter 704, I Want That Bracelet. 4. After all the dishes were served, the waiter came to the table where Leng Ruoxue and the others were seated. He respectfully bowed and said, Miss Leng, these are the signature dishes of our Shadow Pavilion. Please enjoy. After speaking, the waiter retreated to the side to avoid disturbing Leng Ruoxue and the others. Leng Ruoxue looked at the dishes on the table. There were a variety of dishes, and they looked quite tempting. However, she wondered what the taste was like. She held up a piece of soft and tender meat and put it into her mouth. The meat melted in her mouth and the fragrance was strong. It was quite delicious. Leng Ruoxue ate a few mouthfuls of each dish on the table before putting down her chopsticks. Shuer, are you full? Seeing that Shuer only ate a few mouthfuls and no longer moved her chopsticks, he could not help asking with concern. Although the dishes here could not compare to their own, they were already considered pretty good in the boundless heaven continent. And, you guys eat. Leng Ruoxue nodded, then lowered her head and looked at the little red snake on her wrist. Little Flame was jealous these 2 days. Because Xiaohua didn't need it as much as before, the little fella couldn't stand this difference and decided to wrap it around her wrist and play dead. Hee, but it was quite pretty. Brother Lan, I want that bracelet. Suddenly, a slightly familiar voice rang in Leng Ruoxue and the others' ears. Leng Ruoxue raised her head curiously and looked at the source of the voice. After that, she couldn't help but sigh softly. Sigh. I wonder if this is considered as enemies meeting on a narrow road. The woman who spoke was the one they met at the city gate. Moreover, the brother Lan that the woman was talking about was actually someone they were familiar with. Because that brother Lan was none other than the young master of the Lan family, Lan Lai. However, Lan Lai shouldn't be able to recognize them. She just didn't know if Lan Lai would recognize Grandpa Du. Leng Ruoxue glanced at the little old man. To be honest, she didn't want to acknowledge Lan Lai, so she could only pray that Lan Lai's memory wasn't good. Minor, don't be willful. That's someone else's thing, how can you take it? Lan Lai's voice rang in Leng Ruoxue's ears. Brother Lan, you dote on me the most. Help me buy it. The girl named Minor tugged at Lan Lai's arm and acted coquettishly. If I buy it for you, will you return to Blue Cloud City immediately? Lan Lai frowned slightly, the impatience on his face disappearing in a flash. Okay. Minor nodded obediently. However, she couldn't help but think in her heart, I'll agree to it first. After I get the bracelet, I'll decide whether to leave or not. Seeing that Minor had agreed, Lan Lai walked directly to Leng Ruoxue and said with some embarrassment, Can you sell that bracelet to me? I can pay you a hefty sum. Bracelet? Leng Ruoxue was a bit confused. She only wore the heaven and earth bracelet on her wrist. However, from the way the woman was looking at her, it wasn't the heaven and earth bracelet. So, She was really curious, which bracelet did this woman like? I want that red snake-shaped bracelet. Before Lan Lai could reply, Minor spoke up impatiently. Then, she looked at Leng Ruoxue provocatively. Snake-shaped bracelet? Are you sure? Leng Ruoxue asked somewhat speechlessly. She really had good taste, actually liking Little Flame. But, how could Little Flame be bought so easily? Swear, since this miss likes your snake-shaped bracelet, then sell it to her. Wuqing said with a smile, but she couldn't help but secretly laugh in her heart. Ha, what kind of eyes does this person have? He actually thinks Xiaohua is a bracelet, but that little fellow isn't easy to get along with. This, Leng Ruoxue was helpless. Ah. Little Flame couldn't be sold. Even if she wanted to sell it, Little Flame wouldn't be willing either. How much is it? Name your price. I want this bracelet for sure, Minor said arrogantly. Humph. She was determined to get this bracelet. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. It doesn't seem like you're the one paying. Leng Ruoxue glanced at Lan Lai beside her and said with slight sympathy. Although she didn't know what relationship this woman had with Lan Lai, she could tell from Lan Lai's expression that he was unwilling. Sigh. Poor Lan Lai. Brother Lan, tell this woman that you'll buy it for me no matter how much it costs, Minor said coquettishly as she tugged on Lan Lai's arm. Ah. Miss, please name a price, said Lan Lai gloomily. He only wanted to get rid of this pestering fly as soon as possible, so he really did not care about the price. 100 billion purple coins. Leng Ruoxue demanded. What? Are you robbing me? How can this lousy bracelet be so expensive? Minor roared in anger. Why? Can't you afford it? Leng Ruoxue asked with a faint smile. If you can't afford it, then don't force yourself to buy it. What a disgrace, Feng Miao added oil to the fire, but her eyes were full of sympathy as she looked at Minor. She was not the only one. Feng De and the others' eyes were filled with sympathy. You ugly freak. You don't have the right to speak here. Minor immediately shouted angrily. Minor, is it? I realize that not only is there something wrong with your eyes, but your aesthetic sense is also very problematic. As long as you're not blind, you can probably tell that I'm prettier than you, but in your eyes, I'm actually ugly. This is really too laughable. Feng Miao was speechless. Sigh. She was someone who didn't care about her looks, yet she had no choice but to take this woman seriously, which showed how much influence this woman had. Nonsense. It's obviously me who's prettier than you. Brother Lan, tell me, am I prettier than all of them? Minor tugged at Lan Lai's arm, asking him to be her judge. The them that Minor spoke of naturally included all the women present. Yes, yes, Lan Lai replied impatiently. However, the narcissistic Minor naturally could not tell. Humph. Did you guys hear that? Minor said smugly. Then, she clenched her fists, showing off to Leng Ruoxue and the others. Her words made Leng Ruoxue and the others speechless. Miss Minor, didn't you want to buy this bracelet? Leng Ruoxue couldn't stand this narcissistic woman and quickly changed the topic to the bracelet. Chapter 705, I want that bracelet, 5, that's right. Name a price. Minor hurriedly said. Humph. She definitely had to get her hands on this bracelet. Who asked her to like it at first glance? I said 100 billion. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Brother Lan. Minor looked at Lan Lai with a pleading gaze. Hearing this price, she knew that Brother Lan would not buy it for her. Miss, we sincerely want to buy it. Give us a real price. Lan Lai said bluntly. I'm also selling it with sincerity. It's a fixed price. If you can afford it, then take it. Otherwise, don't have any ideas about my bracelet, Leng Ruoxue said coldly. Minor, that bracelet is too expensive. Let's not buy it. Lan Lai saw that the beautiful woman in front of him could not get through to him, so he could only persuade Minor. Although he really wanted to send Minor away, he could not take out 100 billion to buy her a bracelet. Not to mention that he could not take out so much money, even if he could, he would not be such a spendthrift. Big brother Lan, you promised to buy it for me, Minor said with tears in her eyes, feeling extremely wronged. That bracelet is too expensive. I won't be able to afford it even if I sell myself. Lan Lai's patience had finally run out. After saying that, he went straight upstairs to his room without looking back. Just you wait. If you provoke our Lan family, you'll suffer. Minor saw that Lan Lai had gone upstairs and left behind a threatening sentence before chasing after him. Sigh. Miss, we've been threatened again. Feng sighed helplessly. Hurry up and eat. After eating, rest early, Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. It wasn't like she hadn't provoked the Lan family before, why would she be afraid of a woman's threat? This small episode did not affect Leng Ruoxue and the others' mood. After eating, everyone returned to their rooms to rest. Late at night, Leng Ruoxue and the freak were sleeping soundly on the bed. All of a sudden, the door to their room opened and a ghostly-looking man in black sneaked in. The man in black sneaked up to their bed and stared at the blood-red bracelet on Leng Ruoxue's wrist. Then, he reached out his hand and was about to remove the bracelet. Ah! Following that, a scream came from the man in black's mouth. The man in black quickly shook his hand and ran out of Leng Ruoxue and the demon's room in a sorry state. What's wrong? What happened? At this time, Feng and the others heard the scream and rushed into their room. Miss, what's wrong? Wake up. Leto went up and pushed her miss, but Leng Ruoxue did not react. Seeing this situation, she couldn't help but feel anxious. Leto, don't be anxious. I have already asked Lin Yuan to look for the shopkeeper. Feng quickly consoled her. His face was also anxious. Not long after, the shopkeeper who was woken up followed behind Lin Yuan and ran all the way to Leng Ruoxue and the demon's room. What happened? The shopkeeper looked at the two unconscious people on the bed and understood. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel. Thanks. Shopkeeper, my young miss is in trouble, boo-hoo. Once Lu Tao saw the shopkeeper, she immediately started sobbing. Shopkeeper, isn't the safety of your inn a little too poor? Why did such a thing happen? Could it be that someone in your shadow city is tempted by money? Feng roared in anger. Ah! I can use the reputation of the Shadow Pavilion to guarantee that there will never be such a person in our shadow city. The shopkeeper quickly guaranteed. At the same time, he was a little puzzled. Who was it that did this? It was really too despicable. Wasn't this ruining the reputation of their shadow city? If he knew who this person was, he would definitely mobilize the entire Shadow League to hunt him down. Shopkeeper, if this old man didn't smell wrongly, there's clearly the smell of knockout powder in this room. Furthermore, it's the forgotten soul that's most harmful to the human body. My poor girl and kid. How did they encounter such an unlucky thing? At this moment, the little old man said faintly. Don't worry, old man. We'll definitely catch the culprit and give you an explanation. The shopkeeper's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he promised. Woo! These people gave him a lot of pressure. However, he had to report this matter to the butler as soon as possible. My granddaughter and grandson-in-law. Shopkeeper, could it be that they've been unconscious all this time? Boo-hoo. They're still so young. Damn little thief, it's best if I don't catch him. Otherwise, I'll definitely chop him into pieces. Ling Qingtian also cried with snot and tears. Everyone, don't worry. This happened in our Shadow City. Our Shadow League will definitely give everyone a satisfactory explanation. The shopkeeper hurriedly guaranteed. Shopkeeper, of course we believe in your guarantee. However, the most important thing now is to wake up my younger sister and brother-in-law. Otherwise, the longer they are unconscious, the more harmful it will be to their bodies. It might even affect their future cultivation. You have to know that they are all geniuses. Leng Ruhan said with a face full of regret. His handsome face seemed to be saying, how did this happen? The 1,000-year snow ginseng is needed to save the girl, but we don't have it. The little old man said with a bitter face. Then, he turned to look at the shopkeeper and said with some embarrassment, Shopkeeper, can you help us think of a way? We are willing to spend a large sum of money to buy it. I'll try. The shopkeeper didn't dare to say that he didn't, otherwise, he believed that he definitely wouldn't be able to leave this place. Moreover, this happened in their shadow pavilion, so he really couldn't just leave it be. After the manager finished speaking, he bid farewell to everyone and left Leng Ruoxue and the freak's room. Who could have done this? After the shopkeeper left, everyone found a random place to sit down. Then, everyone began to discuss with question marks on their faces. Little Flame, did you see that person's face? Feng asked carefully. No, but I bit him, so if anyone in this city planted snake venom, that black-clothed person just now would be that person, Little Flame said coldly, its mood extremely unpleasant. Chapter 706, 706, Will he die? Feng asked again. Do you want him to die? Little Flame asked with a mischievous smile. Of course not. We want him to suffer a fate worse than death. Peach Lu said hatefully. Humph. He dared to hurt her young miss. He was really seeking death. As you wish. That person won't die, but hell also live a very painful life. Fiery shook its little head and said with a bit of pride. Good job, Fiery. Feng praised. At the same time, he stretched out his hand, wanting to touch Fiery's head. However, he suddenly remembered how terrifying Fiery was, so he retracted his hand. Coward. Little Flame cursed in its heart with slight disdain. Humph. It won't bite people randomly, so why are these people so afraid of it? Women are better, it's never afraid of it. Ah. Being looked down upon by a small snake made Feng extremely depressed. Woo, why was this snake also bullying people? Ah. Yes. Suddenly, a scream was heard. The painful scream seemed to be mixed with moans. What's that sound? It's so scary, said Lu Tao nervously. Lu Tao, children are not suitable. Feng quickly covered Peach's ears. You're the child. Peach slapped Feng Da's hand away and said angrily, Humph. Do you really think I'm a child who doesn't know anything? I'm not that white. Hee hee. Let's go and take a look. Lin Yuan smirked and said excitedly. I suggest you guys better not go. Otherwise, you'll definitely regret it. Fiery warned. Ah. Why? Lin Yuan was confused. It's a secret. In any case, don't go out, Little Flame said mysteriously. But women can go out and watch the show. Little Flame added. Ah. Everyone became even more puzzled. Why could women go and watch the show, but men couldn't? Could it be that Little Flame also favored women over men? I'm doing this for your own good. Trust me. Little Flame said with a face like a charlatan. Ah. Help. At this moment, a cry for help sounded in the room. It was obviously a man's voice. Ugh. Instantly, cold sweat dripped down Feng De and the others' foreheads. They were so frightened that their hearts trembled, and their thoughts started to run wild. Could it be? I'll go out and take a look. Feng Miao said with a face full of curiosity, then left the room directly. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. However, not even a moment later, Feng Miao returned with a pale face. Little Miao Miao, what's wrong? Why do you look so pale? Everyone asked curiously, their faces full of question marks. Ah. Men, don't leave the room. It's too dangerous. Feng Miao warned, but her expression was a little unnatural. Heh heh. Am I right? Fiery laughed mischievously, his face full of pride. That's right. None of you should go out. Otherwise, your innocence will be lost. Feng Miao nodded repeatedly. Mother. This was too unbelievable. Ah. This time, Feng De and the others all understood. Could it be that the poison was acting up? But what kind of poison was fiery? It was actually so powerful that it could make people lose their minds. Dong 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 dong. Dong dong dong. At this moment, there was another hurried knock on the door. Feng Miao, who was closest to the door, reluctantly went to open the door under everyone's gaze. However, she couldn't help but feel nervous in her heart. This night was really busy. Feng Miao opened the door and saw the pale-faced shopkeeper and steward Yu, who was pretending to be calm, standing outside the door. She moved aside to let them in. Shopkeeper, why is your expression so unsightly? Leng Qingtian clearly knew what the consultant was saying. Oh, since such a thing had happened in the inn, the shopkeeper must be extremely depressed. I was anxious. I was worried about young Lady Leng. The shopkeeper wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said with lingering fear. Boo-hoo. He could not say that he was almost. This was too embarrassing. Even the mystic sovereign could not withstand it. Who would believe this if news got out? How is young Lady Leng? I brought 1,000-year-old snow ginseng. Are there any alchemists among you? Yu Tian's gaze swept back and forth between Feng De and the others as he asked. Yes, I am, Zheng En said under the little old man's signal. This is 1,000-year-old snow ginseng. Yu Tian took out a rectangular cold jade box from the ring with some heartache and handed it to Feng Dedeo. He really didn't expect that there was actually an alchemist among them. He originally thought that only Miss Leng was one. However, if he knew that Leng Ruoxue and the others had a total of 4 alchemists, he would definitely be shocked. After all, there weren't many alchemists in the vast heaven continent. Especially alchemists above the alchemy grandmaster level, they were as rare and precious as phoenix feathers and qilin horns. Zheng En received the jade box and carefully opened it. Instantly, a gust of cold air blew towards him. Following that, what entered his eyes was a snow-white and fat snow ginseng. This snow ginseng was slightly bigger than an adult's palm. Its roots were complete and its head had a faint outline of facial features. As an alchemist, he could tell with one look that this snow ginseng was definitely more than 1,000 years old. Good ginseng, exclaimed the little old man. Hee, who would have thought that the Shadow League really had some good stuff? This snow ginseng was the best he had ever seen. This snow ginseng is a treasure of our Shadow League. It was originally not for sale, but something happened to Miss Leng in the territory of our Shadow City, so, Yu Tian only spoke halfway before he looked at the snow ginseng in Zheng En's hand with a pained and reluctant expression as if he was about to be separated from his sweetheart. Hee, Butler you don't have to be reluctant. We won't let you suffer a loss, the little old man promised sincerely. Everyone, name a price. Yu Tian thought for a while and said. Although they were responsible for such an incident in the Shadow City, if such a precious snow ginseng was given to him for free, he definitely wouldn't feel good about it. Therefore, he had to accept some money. Otherwise, he would definitely be depressed to death. Steward Yu, I know that this 1,000-year-old snow ginseng can't be bought with money, so I don't plan on asking for a price. If you trust me, this old man, he'll get my girl to give you a medicinal herb of equal value after I save my girl. What do you think? The little old man thought for a moment and said. To every alchemist who valued medicine as much as their life, a snow ginseng was a good thing, and it was even more so for a senior alchemist like him. Chapter 707, I'm not a snake, I'm a family heirloom. 2. A medicinal ingredient of equivalent value? Yu Tian was stunned. Originally, when he heard the little old man say that he wasn't going to offer a price, he was a little angry. However, later on, when he heard that they were going to use medicinal ingredients of equivalent value to exchange for it, he couldn't help but be curious. He really wanted to know what kind of medicinal ingredients these people would use to exchange for it. Hee, I guarantee that, butler, you will be satisfied with our medicinal herbs, the little old man promised mysteriously. After all, any medicinal herb that his lass took out would probably be worth more than this snow ginseng. It was just that they did not have the snow ginseng with them. All right. Yu Tian nodded. They'd traded a few times, so he still believed in the credibility of these people. Hee, everyone, I have a presumptuous request. Yu Tian continued. Everyone looked at Yu Tian with question marks all over their faces. They didn't understand what he was up to. Can you let us watch while you concoct the pill? Yu Tian asked, somewhat embarrassed. After all, they were outsiders. Sure. Zheng En nodded his head without hesitation. He was not so particular when refining pills. Thank you. May I know what kind of medicinal pill this Grandmaster wishes to refine? Yu Tian asked curiously. Medicinal pills that could be used for snow ginseng were at least earth grade. Therefore, he really wanted to know if this young man in front of him had the strength of an alchemist grandmaster. The snow ginseng pill, of course, Zheng En said matter-of-factly. The snow ginseng pill was a heaven-grade medicinal pill. This was his first time refining it. He did not know what the success rate would be. Ah! Yu Tian was greatly shocked. Although he had never seen the snow ginseng elixir before, he was very clear about the rank of the elixir. Therefore, he really couldn't imagine that this man who looked to be in his 30s was actually an alchemy-revered master. How could he not be surprised? Hee, steward Yu, calm down. This is my first time refining a heaven-grade medicinal pill. It's hard to say whether it'll succeed or not. Zheng En scratched his head with his hand and said somewhat embarrassedly. Ah! Yu Tian was unable to remain calm. His forehead was even dripping with cold sweat. Using snow ginseng to refine a heaven-grade medicinal pill for the first time. This was too extravagant. Yu Tian was in a frenzy at the side while Zheng En calmly took out his own cauldron. After lighting the fire and preheating it, he placed the medicinal herbs into the cauldron in order. When all the medicinal herbs in the cauldron melted into liquid, he cut off a few ginseng roots and threw them into the cauldron. Then, he removed the impurities and purified them. Finally, he tempered them and condensed the pills. After all the steps were completed, he waited. Not long after, when the unique fragrance of the snow ginseng pill wafted out from the furnace, everyone knew that the pill had been successfully refined. Under everyone's expectant gazes, Zheng En opened the pill furnace. Looking at the snow-white medicinal pill lying in the middle of the pill furnace, he was elated. He didn't expect to succeed on his first attempt at refining heaven-grade medicinal pills. Even though there were only 10, he was already very happy. Congratulations, sir. When Yu Tian saw that the elixir had been successfully refined, his gaze towards Zheng En immediately became fiery, and he made up his mind to befriend them. After all, being able to become friends with an alchemy-revered master would bring about many benefits. I was just lucky. Zheng En said somewhat embarrassedly. You are too modest. Being able to refine a heaven-grade medicinal pill is not due to luck. Yu Tian was somewhat speechless as he spoke. If luck was really so useful, then how could there be so few alchemist honorable masters? Zheng En laughed foolishly, not knowing what to say. Silly boy, why aren't you giving the medicinal pills to the girl and the boy? The little old man patted his silly disciple's head and lightly reprimanded. Oh. Zheng En hurriedly said. Then, he took out 2 pills from the pill furnace and put them into Leng Ruoxue and the demon's mouths respectively. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. A moment later, they opened their eyes. When they saw the people in the room, their faces were filled with confusion. Why aren't you guys sleeping in the middle of the night? What are you doing in my room? Leng Ruoxue asked with a face full of question marks. Miss, something happened to you. Peach looked at her mistress with tears in her eyes. Ah. What happened to us? Leng Ruoxue and the demon asked in unison. You guys were drugged, Peach explained with tears in her eyes. Ah. Who would have the guts to do such a thing in the Shadow City? Isn't the security in the Shadow City very good? Could it be that our 10,000 purple coins entrance fee was paid for in vain? Can't even guarantee our basic safety. Leng Ruoxue asked like a cannonball, her beautiful face full of disappointment. Young Lady Leng, after such a thing happened, I am truly sorry. We will definitely give young Lady Leng an explanation. Yu Tian, who was extremely embarrassed, guaranteed. Butler Yu is here too. Leng Ruoxue said as if she had just seen someone. Yes. Yu Tian nodded speechlessly. Lass. Thanks to the housekeeper, who gave us the snow ginseng, we were able to wake you up. You have to return a good herb to her later. The little old man reminded her and even secretly winked at Leng Ruoxue. Thank you, Butler Yu, Leng Ruoxue said gratefully. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Young Lady Leng, did you lose anything valuable? Asked Yu Tian. He had been busy watching the concoction process earlier and didn't have the chance to ask for the details. My miss lost a bracelet, said Lu Tao. Bracelet? What kind of bracelet? Yu Tian asked with a face full of curiosity. What kind of thief would use Forget Soul for a bracelet? One had to know that this was the most damaging knockout powder. Not only would the person who planted the poison remain unconscious, even if he woke up, his cultivation would also be damaged. It might even affect his future cultivation. Therefore, this Forget Soul was absolutely considered a forbidden medicine in the vast Heaven continent. A red, transparent snake-shaped bracelet. It's worth 100 billion. Lu Tao glanced at Little Flame and said calmly. Yu Tian couldn't help but wipe off the cold sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself, how could there be such an expensive bracelet in this world? Steward Yu, that bracelet is my family's young Miss family heirloom. She lost it just like that, sigh. Leto sighed heavily and said with a bitter face. However, when she mentioned the family heirloom, Xiaohua actually raised its little head with a proud expression. Chapter 708, I'm not a snake, I'm a family heirloom. 3. That, we will do our best to help young Lady Leng find the lost item. It is getting late. We will take our leave first. After Yu Tian finished speaking, he pulled the shopkeeper and fled as if his buttocks were on fire. Boo-hoo, if he continued, the old ancestor would probably come out to settle the score with them. Why did he run away? I haven't finished speaking. Lu Tao looked at Yu Tian's back and complained. I've already become a family heirloom. How could he still dare to stay here? Little Flame said with understanding. Family heirlooms were very valuable. You're just a small snake. Leng Ruoxue placed Little Flame in her palm and gently tapped its little head. I'm not a snake. I'm a family heirloom, Little Flame said very stubbornly. A family heirloom was much more important than a small snake, so it wanted to be a family heirloom. Little Flame, you are not lost, so you can't be a family heirloom, reminded Lu Tao with some amusement. Then I'm also a family heirloom. Humph. I'll bite whoever dares to say that I'm not. Little Flame glared with its crystal-like eyes and threatened. Eh. Everyone was speechless. Little Flame actually threatened them. Boo-hoo. This was really too much. You're a family heirloom, definitely. Feng Miao was the first to surrender. She had witnessed the tragedy outside with her own eyes, so she absolutely supported this little fellow. From now on, she would not go against anything that this little fellow said. "And you're still the smart one." Little Flame nodded with satisfaction. Then, its fiery red crystal eyes lightly swept over everyone. "You are a family heirloom," everyone said in unison, extremely spineless. Hearing everyone's words, Little Flame was satisfied. Then, it formed a circle in Leng Ruoxu's palm and happily slept. "Girl, you won't blame me for taking the liberty to use other herbs to exchange for that snow ginseng, right?" After a while, the little old man asked. Even though he knew that the girl wouldn't hide it from him and blame him, he still felt a little uncertain since he hadn't heard her say it herself. "Hee, no way. We don't have any snow ginseng," Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Sigh. Grandpa Du was thinking too much. She knew what happened back then, how could she blame him? Hee. Lass. This time, the Lan family will be implicated by that woman, the little old man said with a wicked smile. Doing such a thing in the Shadow League's territory was really courting death. Now, even the Lan family might not be able to protect her. If she didn't use Forgotten Soul, I wouldn't have dragged the Shadow League into this. Leng Ruoxue saw that there were no outsiders and that she wasn't acting anymore, so she told the truth. In fact, when the woman had just taken action, she had already discovered it. Originally, she only wanted Little Flame to bite her to punish her, but who knew that the knockout drug that the woman used was actually the Forgotten Soul that made people want to die. Therefore, she was a little angry at the time, so she decided to beat her at her own game and blow things up. And the need to use snow ginseng to solve Forgotten Soul was definitely unexpected for the Shadow League to have 1,000-year-old snow ginseng. Otherwise, she would probably still be unconscious for some time. Lass, even though I don't know what relationship that woman has with the Lan clan, she shouldn't be a member of the Lan clan. Do you think the Shadow League will vent their anger on the Lan clan? The little old man asked worriedly. Ah. He had some ties with that old geezer from the Lan clan, so he naturally didn't want to see any harm come to the Lan clan. Even though the Shadow League is mysterious and unfathomable, they shouldn't fall out with the Lan clan over such a small matter. However, after such a thing happened in the Shadow City, the Shadow League's face must be recovered. So, it's inevitable for the Lan clan to lose some money. Leng Ruoxue analyzed after thinking for a while. Her relationship with Lan Ming wasn't bad, so she naturally didn't want to make things difficult for the Lan clan. Moreover, it was hard to say whether the old man from the Lan clan recognized this woman or not. Moreover, with her understanding of that old man, that cunning old man would definitely not acknowledge this debt. Yes, but it won't be easy to get money from the Lan family. The little old man nodded in agreement. Hee, Grandpa Du, we don't have to worry about this. It's getting late, everyone should rest early. Leng Ruoxue smiled and said. Sigh. Because of a woman who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, they actually went through so much trouble. This was really too much. Aunt couldn't tolerate it. However, she blamed this on Lan Lai. Miss, we want to sleep in the space. Feng Dao and the others exchanged glances and then said in unison. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Alright. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. With a thought, she brought everyone into the space. 2 days later. Leng Ruoxue and the others finally left the bracelet. For the past 2 days, they had been staying in the space. During this time, only Feng Miao followed Leng Ruoxu's instructions and went to deliver the medicinal herbs to the housekeeper. The others didn't leave the room at all. At the same time, Feng Miao also informed the manager not to disturb them unless it was something important. When Leng Ruoxue and her group walked down the stairs and arrived at the hall on the first floor, the shopkeeper quickly came up to them and bowed slightly before asking, "Would everyone like to eat something?" "Sure." "Shopkeeper, did anything fun happen in the Shadow City in the past 2 days?" Leng Ruoxue asked curiously while looking at the shopkeeper with a smile. "Ah." Cold sweat broke out on the shopkeeper's forehead as he hesitated whether he should say it or not. "Shopkeeper, has the whereabouts of the thief who stole our lattice things been found?" Lu Tao asked with anticipation. "Ah. I'm not too sure about this. It's Butler Yu who's in charge." The shopkeeper pushed the blame onto Yu Tian. "Oh. After we're done eating, let's go look for Butler Yu. It's been 2 days, there should be some progress." Leng Ruoxue said lightly. Actually, she knew clearly that Butler Yu was in a dilemma. After all, this matter involved the Lan family. "I'll go prepare food for everyone." After the shopkeeper said that, he left the place as if he was running for his life. Leng Ruoxue and the others simply ate some food. After that, they majestically went to find Yu Tian. When they arrived at the entrance of Butler Yu's residence, Leng Ruoxue gave Feng De a look. Feng De walked up and knocked on the door a few times. Creak. The door opened and a guard walked out. When he saw Leng Ruoxue and the others, he politely asked, "Who are you looking for?" Chapter 709, I'm not a snake, I'm a family heirloom. 4, my miss surname is Leng. "We're looking for Butler Yu," Feng De replied. "Oh. Please wait a moment," the guard said before closing the door to report to Butler Yu. A few minutes later, Butler Yu came out personally. "Young Lady Leng, your body has just recovered. How did you come out?" "Ha, if you want to see me, you just need to send someone to inform me and I will personally go see you." Yu Tian's face was full of smiles as he spoke with great enthusiasm. "Butler Yu is very busy every day, unlike me who has nothing to do, of course I have to personally visit." Leng Ruoxue said politely. "Ha, quickly come in." Yu Tian smiled awkwardly. His heart was beating like a drum. Ah. From her tone, could it be that young Lady Leng was blaming him? Boo-hoo, he was wronged. Okay. Leng Ruoxue nodded, then everyone followed the housekeeper into the courtyard. After bringing Leng Ruoxue and the others to the living room, Yu Tian instructed the waiter to prepare tea and snacks before sitting down to chat with them. "Housekeeper Yu, have you found the thief?" Leng Ruoxue asked bluntly when she saw that Yu Tian was looking left and right. "Ah. This. Recently, someone in Shadow City has been poisoned. However, we aren't too sure either." Yu Tian said very implicitly. "Butler Yu, to be honest, the symptoms of the snake poison aren't too obvious for the person who was bitten by my xiaohua. However, the person who is poisoned has an extremely strong physiological requirement. Before long, they will die from exhaustion. Moreover, this kind of poison can be transmitted through certain actions. So, it's best if you find this person as soon as possible. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." Leng Ruoxue calmly explained. She didn't even ask who the person who was poisoned was. After that, she drank a mouthful of tea and looked at Yu Tian with her beautiful eyes that had a smile that wasn't a smile. She believed that housekeeper Yu knew what she said was true. After speaking, Leng Ruoxue stood up and left. After sending Leng Ruoxue off, Yu Tian sat alone on a chair and pondered for a long time. Suddenly, he called out to the void, "Shadow." "Milord, what instructions do you have?" A black ghost-like figure instantly appeared before Yu Tian. "Shadow, how trustworthy do you think young Lady Leng's words are?" Yu Tian asked his confidant very seriously. "Sir, 2 of our men have already been poisoned, and they are still unconscious," the shadow reminded. The 2 who had been poisoned had been bitten. Furthermore, their Shadow League's alchemists had tried all sorts of methods but were still unable to cure the poison. You mean to hand that woman over? Yu Tian hesitated. If it wasn't because that woman was the younger cousin of the Lan clan's young master, he wouldn't have to be in such a difficult situation. He definitely wanted to be on good terms with young Lady Leng, but the Lan clan wasn't willing to provoke them. Although the Shadow League wasn't afraid of the Lan clan, if he could sell a favor to the Lan clan, it would be beneficial to the Shadow League as well. Sigh. Could it be that there wasn't a way to achieve the best of both worlds? For the past 2 days, he had a headache over this matter. Sir, if I am not wrong, Miss Leng and the rest must know who the thief is. Therefore, it is unlikely that they will be able to make a comeback, the shadow said carefully. Sigh. What you said makes sense. Yu Tian nodded, his brows furrowing deeper and deeper. Lord, you better remind the other lords about this. I feel that Miss Leng is even more difficult to deal with than the Lan clan. The shadow said softly. Of course I know that young Lady Leng isn't someone to be trifled with. However, they have to listen to me. Yu Tian said in a somewhat depressed manner. At the same time, he recalled the fire lotus that Feng Miao sent over. Sigh. Using snow ginseng to exchange for the fire lotus was still them taking advantage of him. After all, even though snow ginseng was precious, it wasn't as widely used as the fire lotus. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. The shadow fell silent. After Leng Ruoxue and the others left Yu Tian's residence, they returned to the shadow pavilion. In the room, Feng De could not help but ask, Miss, what does butler you mean? The Shadow League's face is nothing more than this. Leng Ruoxue mocked. It seemed she had overestimated the Shadow League. The relationships between the aristocratic families have always been very deep, so it's normal for the Shadow League to hesitate. After all, the Lan family's strength is obvious, and in their eyes, we can't be compared to the Lan family at all, the little old man said knowingly, consoling Leng Ruoxue. I know. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Although she was a little depressed, she also knew that in the eyes of the Shadow League, she couldn't compare to a super-aristocratic family. Oh. Since ancient times, only the strong had the right to speak. Miss, didn't butler you promise to give us an explanation? Is he trying to fool us? Peach Lu asked in confusion. Of course he'll give us an explanation. However, I'm afraid that it won't satisfy us. Leng Ruoxue said in understanding. After making a trip to the housekeeper's office, she was even more clear about the Shadow League's intentions. It looked like it was as she had expected, the Shadow League was currently in a difficult position. Miss, what should we do now? Lu Tao could not help but ask. Were they working for nothing? Wait. In any case, I'm not the one who was poisoned, I'm not in a hurry. Leng Ruoxue laughed lightly. No matter what relationship that woman has with the Lan family, since that woman dared to have designs on her, then don't even think about living well. The Lan family can't protect minor either. Hee. Then let's wait, said Lu Tao with an evil smile. However, she had not heard any screams for the past 2 days. Could it be that the woman had already left Shadow City? Yes. Everyone nodded. Miss, when are we leaving this place? Feng Miao suddenly asked. After this matter is settled, we'll leave. Oh. What's the matter? Leng Ruoxue said with understanding. No. Feng Miao hurriedly said. Oh. If you have nothing to do during the day, you can enter the space to cultivate. Leng Ruoxue thought for a while and said. The Shadow City was too small and there was really nothing to visit. After all, everyone who came here was here for the transaction. Feng De and the others nodded. Just as they were about to enter the space, they heard a knock on the door. Chapter 710, I'm not a snake, I'm a family heirloom. 5. Feng turned around to open the door, only to discover that it was Butler Yu and an unfamiliar middle-aged man standing outside. Butler Yu, we just came back from your place. We haven't even warmed up our butts. Why are you here? Feng chuckled. I have something to discuss with young Lady Lang. I forgot to mention it earlier. Yu Tian said somewhat embarrassedly. Oh, then please come in. Vonetta moved aside and let them into the room. Butler Yu, what's the matter? Leng Ruoxue asked directly without even inviting Yu Tian to sit down. Are you Sir Du Min? Suddenly, the middle-aged man who had been standing next to Yu Tian fixed his gaze on the small old man and spoke with an excited expression. Oh. It's been a long time since someone called me by that name, the little old man said indifferently. Mr. Du Min, I really didn't expect to see you here. I'm so happy. The middle-aged man was extremely excited. Sir. Sir Du Min. Yu Tian also stuttered a little. No wonder he felt that this little old man was somewhat familiar. To think that this unremarkable old man was actually the godlike person in the hearts of all alchemists. Ah. Although he wasn't an alchemist, he was still very clear about Du Min's position in the alchemy world and even in the entire vast heaven continent. Ah. If he had long seen that this little old man was Sir Du Min, he probably wouldn't have hesitated either. He didn't know if it was still too late. What are you talking about? Just call me old man. The little old man said disapprovingly. Butler Yu, what are you here for? Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but ask again. She didn't want to attend a fan meeting with her idol. Young Lady Leng, it's like this. Didn't I tell you that someone in the city was indeed poisoned? However, there isn't sufficient evidence. Moreover, 2 people in our Shadow League were poisoned and were bitten by someone. So, I'm here to ask for the snake poison. If it can cure my subordinate's poison, then we can basically confirm the thief. Yu Tian pondered for a moment before speaking in an extremely reserved manner. Oh, is that so? It seems that Steward Yu doesn't have any sincerity. Someone, send the guest out. Leng Ruoxue instructed expressionlessly. Humph. At this time, Yu Tian was still playing mind games with her. To think she had such a good impression of him. Young Lady Leng, Yu Tian wanted to explain, but Leng Ruoxue didn't give him a chance. She turned around and entered the inner room. Butler Yu, this way please. Feng extended an arm and made an inviting gesture. Yu Tian gave the middle-aged man a look. The middle-aged man opened his mouth with some difficulty and said, Sir Du Min. However, just as he said a few words, he was interrupted by the little old man. Sigh. This old man is getting on in years. I don't care anymore. Our lass has the final say. The little old man pretended to sigh helplessly. Then, he shrugged his shoulders, indicating that he was helpless. Seeing this, Yu Tian and the middle-aged man had no choice but to leave with their tails between their legs. After leaving, the middle-aged man could not help but mutter as he walked, Butler Yu, why didn't you tell them that the thief was found? I have to tell you, if they can't get the snake venom, they will lose their lives. I know, they are my subordinates. I am also anxious. However, this matter is not something that I can decide alone. I have to go back and discuss it with the others. Yu Tian said with a troubled expression. Sigh. If he could say it directly, how could he not? Then you have to be quick. They won't be able to last much longer, the middle-aged man reminded her. At the same time, he was complaining in his heart. Sigh. If it weren't for that damn woman, he wouldn't have had the chance to get close to his idol. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. Got it. Yu Tian replied in an extremely depressed manner. After that, the 2 of them directly returned to the Shadow Alliance's encampment. The next day, Yu Tian and the middle-aged man came to visit again. They said a lot of good things and told Leng Ruoxue the truth. They even automatically signed numerous unequal treaties before coaxing Leng Ruoxue to take out 2 antidotes. As he looked at the antidote in his hand, Yu Tian's tears fell like rain, and he was extremely excited. Woo, what a rare antidote! For the sake of these 2 antidotes, he had cursed all those conservative and stubborn old things last night. Butler Yu, why aren't you going back quickly and giving these 2 antidotes to your subordinates? Leng Ruoxue reminded. Since Yu Tian was willing to lower his head for his subordinates, he could be considered to be a loyal person. Thus, she was magnanimous and didn't bother about Yu Tian's previous actions. After all, from his perspective, he didn't do anything wrong. Oh. Oh. Yu Tian hurriedly nodded, and then he vanished with a swish. Even though Yu Tian took the antidote and left, the middle-aged man didn't leave. He even stayed next door to them. Furthermore, as long as he had time, he would stick by the little old man's side. His diligence left even Zheng Yan, his disciple, in the dust. Another day passed. Leng Ruoxue and the others had just finished their lunch in the space when Qing Ju informed them that someone was knocking on the door. She quickly moved everyone out of the space. Old Li, what's wrong with you? Feng De, who went to open the door, saw the middle-aged man standing outside the door and teased him in a good mood. Ah. I have something to inform you guys, the middle-aged man called Old Li said as he panted, his face filled with anxiety. What's wrong? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. I just received news that someone from the Lan family is here, Old Li said after calming down a little. When Leng Ruoxue heard Old Li's words, she frowned slightly. She thought to herself, has the Lan family finally shown themselves? I wonder who it is. But, it doesn't matter. Where is the Lan family? The little old man asked curiously, his face full of anticipation. Ah. They went to Butler Ye's place, Old Li said speechlessly. It seemed like those people had heard that Butler Yu had the antidote, so they went to look for him. Sigh. He really did not know how this news was leaked. Then let's go too. Leng Ruoxue smiled. Of course, they were there to watch the show. All right. Everyone nodded excitedly, and then the group of them left the inn in a formidable array and headed straight for Yu Tian's residence. Chapter 711, Feng Miao's cousin, 1, because Old Li was there, they didn't knock on the door this time and just strutted in. However, before they entered the living room, they heard an arrogant female voice from afar. Why didn't you give my daughter the antidote first? Leng Ruoxue stopped in her tracks and looked up at Old Li, asking calmly, who is this woman? This woman is the mistress of the Hu family and also the aunt of the Lan family's young master, Old Li explained. The Hu family? I've never heard of them. Leng Ruoxue's face was full of question marks. Was the Hu family very famous? This woman actually yelled at the housekeeper's office. Sigh. She really didn't know if she was dead or alive. However, she was even more surprised that Yu Tian was actually able to endure it. Could it be that the Shadow League had fallen? Miss Leng, are we still going in? Old Li asked carefully. Come in. Why not? Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she walked into the living room with the demon. Eh? Why are you guys here? After Yu Tian saw Leng Ruoxue, he kept giving her meaningful looks. Then, he glared at Old Li who was beside Leng Ruoxue. Butler Yu has a guest? Looks like we came at the wrong time. Leng Ruoxue pretended to be stupid as she smiled. However, she did not have any intention of leaving. Instead, she found a seat and sat down. The demon sat beside her and Feng De and the rest did not need to greet her. Butler Yu, you must give me an explanation. Why didn't you give the antidote to my daughter first? My daughter is the future young madam of the Lan family. The Lan family will not let you off. A woman who had been ignored shouted at the top of her lungs. Leng Ruoxue, who was sitting at the side, lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up the woman who spoke. The woman in front of her was about 40 years old. She looked ordinary and her figure was long gone. As for her strength, it was so weak that it could be ignored. Moreover, this woman and Minor looked quite similar. However, Minor should be considered to have gained weight. At this moment, the woman was glaring fiercely at Butler Yu. "Madam Hu, can you represent the Lan clan?" Yu Tian sighed lightly and asked with slight uncertainty. Truthfully speaking, he had given the Lan clan's great master face, so he had tolerated this woman repeatedly. However, this woman thought that he was afraid of her. Humph. How preposterous. "Of course I can." Madam Hu said domineeringly. "Butler Yu, there's a problem with your question. The great master of the Lan family is just sitting by the side. Why don't you just ask him directly?" Leng Ruoxue couldn't stand it anymore. Sigh. Just how cowardly was this Lan Lai's father? He actually let such an ignorant woman fool around. No wonder that damned old man Lan Tao refused to hand over the position of the family head. "Sir Lan, what do you think? Can Madam Hu represent the Lan clan?" Yu Tian nodded before he asked. Actually, he was giving Lan Tian face by not asking earlier, but who would have expected Lan Tian to remain silent? Lan Tian glanced at his beloved wife beside him. He didn't know what to say, so he could only remain silent. "Of course she can't represent our Lan family." Lan Lai could not bear it any longer. To be honest, there were times when he really did not understand why his father would indulge this woman so much. Was it because she was his mother's younger sister? "Liar, she's your aunt." A voice as gentle as water sounded helplessly. "Lan Lai, you heartless." When Madam Hu heard that, she hurriedly tried to scold him. However, her words were interrupted by Lan Lai. "So what? Her surname isn't Lan." Lan Lai said with a face full of anger. Just because this woman was his aunt and seemed to be indebted to his mother and son when they were young, their entire family had to treat her as their benefactor for the rest of their lives. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. To be honest, all these years, this so-called aunt had been using the Lan family's name to gain benefits for her husband's family. He and his father had also turned a blind eye to it and pretended not to see it. Even if they had repaid her kindness back then, this aunt's ambition was really too great. She actually wanted to marry her daughter to him. Humph. He didn't like that conceited and greedy cousin of his at all. If it wasn't for his mother, he wouldn't have bothered with that woman at all. Furthermore, after creating such a scandal, she actually wanted to enter the Lan family. He really didn't know what this pair of mother and daughter were thinking. "Madam Hu, right? I was the one who gave Butler Yu the antidote." Leng Ruoxue, who originally wanted to watch a good show, didn't want to play dumb anymore, so she directly said, "Sigh." Looking at these people's acting skills, they probably wouldn't be able to put on a good show. And she had no interest in watching any further. "It's you. Then why didn't you give my daughter to me? Don't you know she's the future young madam of the Lan family?" After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Madame Hu's anger was immediately ignited as she roared like a lion. When Butler Yu saw this, he knew that Miss Leng was planning to remain calm. Hence, he pretended to be deaf and mute. "Why should I give it to her?" Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. "Of course you have to give it to her. She's the future young madam of the Lan family," Madame Hu emphasized. "Future? In other words, she's not." "Madam Hu, I don't understand one thing. After what happened, do you think the Lan family will still allow her to enter?" Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. "What is it? Don't spout nonsense. My daughter was only poisoned." "Nothing happened," Madame Hu said evasively. "Madam Hu, young Master Lan is willing to be a spendthrift, but it doesn't mean that everyone is a fool. Who in the Shadow City doesn't know that Miss Hu Minor has 10 men at night, and she's spending the night with them? Leng Ruoxua laughed evilly. Miss, you cannot speak such nonsense. This concerns a woman's reputation. The moment Leng Ruoxua finished speaking, her gentle voice sounded again. Leng Ruoxua glanced at the middle-aged beauty who spoke. She thought to herself, is this person Lan Lai's mother? I really don't know if she was too well protected by her father and son, or if she was born so fair. Sigh. What a worrisome person. Now, she suddenly felt some sympathy for Lan Lai. Don't spout nonsense. My daughter is innocent. Don't slander her. At this time, Madame Hu also reacted and shouted furiously. Chapter 712, Feng Miao's cousin, 2, Butler Yu, did I slander you? Leng Ruoxua looked at Yu Tian and smiled. No, what Miss Leng said is the truth. Miss Hu did indeed spend the night and night, pouncing on men whenever she saw them. Now, all the men in Shadow City are in danger. If there's nothing important, they wouldn't dare to go out at all. Furthermore, many good men have not only had their innocence ruined by Miss Hu, but they have also been poisoned by her and are still unconscious. Butler Yu added fuel to the fire. You all are speaking nonsense. My daughter was only poisoned. Madame Hu roared out. However, her confidence was clearly lacking. Does Madame Hu know why her daughter was poisoned? Leng Ruoxua asked with a faint smile. Hu Minor had ulterior motives and wanted to steal my bracelet, so she was bitten by my beast. Leng Ruoxua did not give Madame Hu a chance to speak and continued. So it was you who harmed my daughter. Madame Hu couldn't find the person who poisoned her daughter, so when she heard Leng Ruoxua admit it, she immediately exploded. Madame Hu, don't you understand human language? I told you before that I was the one who gave Butler Yu the antidote. Also, I said a few seconds ago that Hu Minor was here to steal my bracelet and was bitten by my beast. So, your precious daughter is asking for it. Leng Ruoxua sneered. No matter what, you're the one who harmed my daughter. I won't let you get away with it, said Madame Hu. That's just as well. I don't plan on letting your precious daughter off either. By the way, let me remind you that your daughter can only live for 3 days at most, Leng Ruoxua said calmly. Finished talking, she directly stood up. Then, she said to Tian, Steward you know better than me what kind of treatment people who use Forget Soul on the vast heaven continent will receive. Amen. Yu Tian nodded. He understood what Leng Ruoxua meant. Then we'll take our leave first, Leng Ruoxua said. After that, she brought the crowd and left Yu Tian's residence. After watching Leng Ruoxua and the others leave, Yu Tian turned to the guard and instructed, send the guests off. After speaking, Yu Tian left his residence. In the guest room. As soon as Leng Ruoxua and the others returned to the restaurant, Feng De and the others started discussing impatiently. Hee, that Madame Hu is a real piece of work. Feng De couldn't stand it anymore. He had seen many women, but this was the first time he had seen such a shameless woman. His daughter was already in such a state, but she was still dreaming about being the young madam of the Lan family. He really didn't know what that old woman was thinking. This is what you call having a daughter like her mother. Lin Yuan teased. I really wanted to kill that old woman just now. Peach clenched her fists and said rather violently. However, without Miss Order, she did not dare to do it. Leng Ruoxua sat on the chair, playing with the fire as she listened to her subordinates' discussion. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Feng De, go open the door. Leng Ruoxua instructed calmly. Yes. Vonda went to open the door, but he returned shortly after. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Where are the guests? Leng Ruoxua asked in confusion. It's someone from the Lan clan. Does young miss want to see him? Feng De asked carefully. Of course I want to see her, Leng Ruoxue smiled. She had already expected the Lan family to come to see her, so she was waiting. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Feng De turned around and invited the Lan family members in. What's the matter? Leng Ruoxue leaned comfortably in the devil's embrace, teasing the fire in her palm as she asked coldly. Miss Leng, we're here to seek the cure, the middle-aged woman said gently. Oh, I thought you guys were here to apologize. Leng Ruoxue said lightly. She took out a small red fruit from her bracelet and fed it to her. Miss Leng, I'm willing to apologize to you on Miner's behalf. Can you give me the antidote? The middle-aged woman asked very sincerely. Why should I give you the antidote? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. Although an apology was necessary, she did not think an apology would be enough to appease her anger. Miss Leng, Miner has done such a thing. I'm willing to compensate you for her loss, Lan Tian said directly as he could not bear to see his wife suffer. Compensation? How do you want to compensate? I was hit by Forget Soul and lost my family heirloom worth 100 billion. Can you compensate me? Leng Ruoxue raised her eyebrows and asked directly. Lan Tian remained silent. Miss Leng, Miner did something wrong. However, aren't you fine now? Please give her another chance. My sister only has one child. The middle-aged woman started crying as she spoke. Her tear-stained appearance was truly pitiful. Of course, this didn't include Leng Ruoxue and the others. Madam Lan, you think I'm fine, so I should let Miss Hu go, right? Humph. I'm fine not because Hu Minor didn't succeed, but because I took the antidote. If it weren't for my grandfather and the others spending a huge sum of money to buy the 1,000-year-old snow ginseng, I probably wouldn't have woken up. Leng Ruoxue said in an extremely cold tone. But Minor has already been punished. Madame Lan whispered. Compared to the consequences of using forgotten souls, her punishment is not enough. Madame Lan, you are very lucky to have a husband who loves you and an obedient son. However, you are too ignorant. Actually, ignorance is not a serious problem. Your biggest problem is being unable to differentiate right from wrong. Leng Ruoxue pointed out the problem with the woman in front of her. However, it caused the father and son of the Lan family to glare daggers at her. Instantly, she felt that she was being a busybody, so she stopped talking. I can't tell right from wrong. I just want to repay your kindness. Madame Lan said softly. Feng De, send the guests away. I don't want to see them again in the future. Leng Ruoxue rudely chased them away. Sigh. Ignorant women weren't scary, but ignorant women who couldn't differentiate right from wrong were the scariest. She had always hated women who were as soft as water. Oh, Lan Lai was a good child, but it was a pity he had such a naive mother. Please. Feng De said lightly. Chapter 713, Feng Miao's cousin, 3, wait. Are you Leng Ruoxue? Lan Lai suddenly asked. For some reason, he felt that this Miss Leng was very similar to the person he knew. However, their appearances were worlds apart. Hence, he could not be sure. Does it have anything to do with each other? People who walk different paths cannot work together. Leng Ruoxue neither admitted nor denied it. However, she knew that she was a straightforward person. Hence, her relationship with Lan Lai could only be like this. I understand. Lan Lai was disappointed. Then, he left Leng Ruoxue and the freak's room with his parents. Swear, this kid from the Lan family is quite pitiful. After Lan Lai and the others left, the little old man sighed. Grandpa Du, I can't help him, Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Lan Lai's mother could not differentiate right from wrong. It was all because of the father and son spoiling. Also, his aunt was the same. So, if they wanted to blame someone, they could only blame themselves for not having principles. In the following 2 days, Lan Lai did not come to look for them again. And there was news that the Hu family offended someone and directly vanished from the vast heaven continent. However, regarding the Hu family's demise, the Lan family did not have any reaction. Even though Yu Tian didn't say it explicitly, Leng Ruoxue knew that Yu Tian must have sent someone to do all of this. As for the Lan clan, Yu Tian should have sent someone to greet them. As for Hu Minor and her daughter in the Shadow City, they would naturally die. In the guest room, Leng Ruoxue looked at Feng Miao, who was standing by the window in a daze, and her heart was full of doubts. Ah! What's wrong with this guy these past 2 days? He's always restless. Miss, when are we leaving Shadow City? Feng Miao felt Leng Ruoxue's gaze and couldn't help but ask. I don't know. Didn't Butler you say that there will be a batch of medicinal ingredients arriving soon? After buying them, we will naturally leave. Leng Ruoxue smiled lightly. Little Miao Miao, is there something on your mind? Oh. Is it spring? Feng Zhan flew in front of Feng Miao and asked with a puzzled expression. Go to hell, you're the one who's in heat. Feng Miao roared rather angrily. Women must be gentle. You can't be so fierce. Be careful not to get married. Feng Zhan kindly reminded. Humph. Men don't have good things. I'm not getting married. After hearing Feng Zhan's words, Feng Miao became even angrier. Oh. It really is spring. Which beast did you take a fancy to, young miss? Feng Zhan said with understanding. Young Miss Beast was extremely beautiful and cute, so it was normal for this female bird to take a fancy to it. As for whether those beasts would take a fancy to her, it was unknown. I'm not interested in any of them. Stop talking nonsense and get lost. Feng Miao roared. Feng Zhan, come over. Don't provoke her. Leng Ruoxue helplessly said. Oh. Feng Zhan obediently flew to Leng Ruoxue's shoulder and affectionately rubbed against her. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Master, I'll go open the door, Feng Zhan said. Then, he flew to the door and opened it to find the waiter standing outside. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website myboxnovel.com. Thanks. What is it? Feng Zhan asked. Ah. I'm here to tell Miss Leng that the medicinal herbs have arrived. However, the attendant at the pharmacy can't leave now. He said that the goods will be sent over later, the attendant said hurriedly. He knew that Miss Leng's beasts were all very fierce, so he didn't dare to provoke any of them. Oh, got it. Feng Zhan replied, and then he closed the door with a bang. After Feng Zhanfei returned to Leng Ruoxue, before he could report, his master spoke. Feng Zhan, you and Feng Miao go get it yourself. Leng Ruoxue said after thinking for a while. Since Feng Miao was in a bad mood, then let her go out for a walk. Maybe her mood would improve. Master, can I not go? Feng Zhan spoke with slight fear. He really didn't want to be together with this violent dragoness right now. Without Master's protection, that female bird would definitely bully him. No, but I can ask Little Flame to go with you. Leng Ruoxue said with an understanding smile. Sigh. All right then. Feng Zhan's little head drooped as he replied extremely unwillingly. Feng Miao, go and get the herbs, then we'll be on our way. Leng Ruoxue looked at Feng Miao and reminded. Okay. Hearing that they were going to go on their way, Feng Miao's gloomy mood immediately turned gloomy. Go quickly and come back quickly. Leng Ruoxue said. Then, she passed Xiaohua, which was wrapped around her wrist, to Feng Miao. Master, don't miss me too much. Feng Zhan said with reluctance. Fuck off. The freak who had been silent all this while roared. Woo, they're all so fierce. Feng Zhan landed on Feng Miao's shoulder and complained with a face full of fear. Feng Miao rolled her eyes at the little red bird on her shoulder, then she left the guest shop with the two beasts in large strides. Schwer, when are we leaving? After Feng Miao left, the demon pulled Shuer into his arms and asked softly. Whatever. You can leave later or tomorrow morning, Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Should we bid farewell to Butler Yu and the rest? The freak suggested. There's no need. Leng Ruoxue pondered for a moment before replying. Actually, they weren't very familiar with Yu Tian. They only had a few happy exchanges with each other. Yes. The freak nodded. He was a filial fiancé, so he would naturally listen to whatever Shuer said. As the two of them were chatting, there was another knock on the door. They won't be back so soon, right? Leng Ruoxue said with a face full of suspicion. I'll open the door. The freak stood up and opened the door. Miss Leng, your subordinate has been captured by the patrolling guards. The moment the door opened, the waiter at the door shouted loudly. What did you say? Hearing the voice, Leng Ruoxue quickly walked to the door and asked. Her subordinates were all cultivating in the space. Feng Miao and the others had gone to the pharmacy to retrieve herbs, who would be caught. It's that Miss Feng and your two beasts. The waiter hurriedly explained. Chapter 714, Feng Miao's cousin, 4, Why did you capture them? Leng Ruoxue asked with a cold expression. Did they really think she was easy to mess with? Well, I don't know what exactly happened. I heard it from a customer, so I came to tell you, the waiter explained. Thank you. Where are they currently locked up? Leng Ruoxue took out a few purple coins and gave them to the waiter as thanks before asking. He's in Shadow City's dungeon. The server replied. Freak, let's go to the prison to take a look. Leng Ruoxue turned around and said to the freak. Okay. The freak knew that Shuer was very anxious, so he didn't waste time and pulled Shuer out of the restaurant. In the Shadow City dungeon. Feng Miao, Feng Zhan, and Little Flame were currently locked in the same cell. I'm sorry for implicating you. Feng Miao said somewhat guiltily. Sigh. What bad luck. She thought she could avoid it, but who knew that she still met it. Little Miao Miao, you are my subordinate. I don't want to hear such words. Feng Zhan's face was stiff as he said with slight displeasure. At this moment, he had already transformed into his human form. This is the prison. Little Flame wasn't as depressed as Feng Miao. Instead, it looked around curiously at the environment in front of it. Yeah. You've broadened your horizons today. Feng Zhan chuckled and teased. Actually, it was also the first time he was captured into a prison. A woman will come and save us. Don't worry. Little Flame nodded its little head and said in a very open-minded manner. It'll just take it as coming here to travel. Oh, Little Flame. Will you bite that woman to death with that strike just now? Feng Zhan asked with a mischievous smile. According to his knowledge, Fiery had at least 10,000 types of poison in its body. Moreover, it didn't even bite people in the same manner. I want. The woman said before that living a life worse than death is 100 times more painful than directly cracking it apart. That's why I won't let her die so easily. Little Flame said with slight complacency, and its little tail curled up proudly. The truth. Feng Zhan spoke with a fawning expression, and he couldn't help but feel uneasy in his heart. Oh, Master is suspected of teaching children bad things. Thinking back, this little red snake was such a pure and kind child. That's for sure. Fiery became increasingly cocky. Looks like you guys have adapted quite well. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded in their ears. The two humans and one beast raised their heads at the same time and looked at Leng Ruoxue who was right in front of them. They shouted enthusiastically in unison. Master! Woman! Miss! Feng Miao's voice was the smallest. After calling out once, she lowered her head in embarrassment. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks. Who's going to tell me what's going on? Leng Ruoxue glared at Feng Zhan and asked. Woman, there was a very coquettish woman who wanted to snatch your family heirloom, me, so I bit her. After that, the man beside her wanted to teach us a lesson. After that, we started fighting. After that, we were caught here, Little Flame said. However, because Little Flame spoke too quickly, it didn't say it very clearly, but Leng Ruoxue finally understood a little. That was, there was someone who was so blind as to want to snatch Little Flame away. Looking at the sparkling, translucent, and incomparably beautiful little fellow, she couldn't help but feel uneasy in her heart. Little Flame actually became a disaster too. Miss, it's all my fault. Feng Miao lowered her head and said softly. Master, they're from the Phoenix clan, Feng Zhan explained. Phoenix clan, isn't that Feng Miao's clansman? Leng Ruoxue said softly, then looked at Feng Miao with a face full of question marks. Miss, that woman's name is Feng Xian. She's my cousin, but we don't have a good relationship. She likes to snatch my things, including men. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't have wanted to snatch Little Flame. So, I'm sorry, it's all my fault, Feng Miao said guiltily. She kept her head lowered, not daring to look at Leng Ruoxue. Does she want to snatch or buy? Leng Ruoxue was a little speechless. What was this? Initially, she thought all beast men were innocent, cute and kind-hearted. But who knew that even among beast men, there would be something like snatching things or even men? This was too unbelievable. Woman, she didn't even say she was going to buy it and directly snatched it. How could I do as she wished? I'm your family heirloom, woman. Those Tom, Dick, and Harry don't have the qualifications to have me. Fiery said with a fawning expression, then shook its head very cockily as if it had done something amazing. Well done. Leng Ruoxue patted Little Flame's head and praised it. Her family's beasts didn't allow others to bully it. Hee. Xiaohua climbed onto Leng Ruoxue's palm and licked her palm gently. Then, it coiled into a ring and lay down. Young miss, that damn woman is really too annoying. I've never hated a phoenix so much in my entire life. Feng Zhan continued to complain. He knew that his master wouldn't be angry with them. His master was a human who loved beast the most. Feng Zhan, tell me what exactly happened. Leng Ruoxue asked. Fiery said it too simply. It only. Chapter 7:15, A Woman's Heart is a Deep Ocean of Secrets, 1, Then did you guys suffer any losses? Leng Ruoxue asked worriedly. Oh. This was what she was more concerned about. She had always been protective of her own people. No one dared to bully her. Hee. Master, with me around, it's naturally impossible for us to suffer a loss. Even though those people are stronger than us, the ones who are injured are them. Feng Zhan said proudly. That's good. As long as you don't suffer any losses, it doesn't matter if the others live or die. Leng Ruoxue nodded in satisfaction. Listening to their conversation, Feng Miao was dumbfounded. Even though she hadn't been with Leng Ruoxue for long, she knew she was a good master. However, she didn't expect her to be so overprotective. Feng Miao couldn't help but feel touched. Feng Miao, tell me about the Phoenix clan. Leng Ruoxue thought for a moment and said. As the saying goes, know thyself and thy enemy. Since she had offended the Phoenix clan, she naturally had to find out more about them. Luckily, she had a branch of the Phoenix clan by her side. Young Miss, Feng Xian's mother, who is also my aunt, is now the acting clan leader of the Phoenix clan. As for my mother and some of the elders of the Phoenix clan, they are all in deep sleep. Therefore, the Phoenix clan is a little chaotic now. Furthermore, the Phoenix clan is no longer the Phoenix clan of. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks, the past. Feng Miao said sadly. Boo-hoo. If not for this, she probably would not have chosen to leave the clan and find a place to cultivate alone. She would not have met Leng Ruoxue and the others. Sigh. Thinking back to when she was defeated by Leng Ruoxue's beasts, she was still a little depressed. But now, she was rejoicing. Deep sleep. The Phoenix clan is in chaos, and they're still sleeping, Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. Weren't beasts cultivating when they slept? Ah. The Phoenix clan would be in irreparable state by the time they woke up, would it? Miss, unless there's a miracle, I'm afraid they won't be able to wake up. Feng Miao said very sadly. The result of waking up was only death, so they could only sleep all the time. It was because of this that her aunt took a fancy to this point that she was so unrestrained. Why? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. Our Phoenix clan is unable to leave this realm, and the price of not being able to break through is death, Feng Miao explained. In fact, many members of the Phoenix clan could already advance to level 9 transcendent divine beasts, but they all chose to delay their advancement. Every day that could be delayed was a day. Because once they advanced to level 9 transcendent divine beasts, it meant that they were not far from death. Master, this realm's Phoenix clan is even more miserable than ours. Feng Zhan said. Back then, they were in the Ling Feng continent, because they had a boundary as a cover, the heaven and earth rules could not sense their ranks at all. But, the Phoenix clan's encampment on the vast heaven continent should not have any enchantment. Otherwise, it was also impossible for them to casually walk on the vast heaven continent. And the price of their freedom not being restricted was to pay with their lives. In fact, there was a way to solve this problem, because they only needed to recognize a master. However, proud existences like the Phoenix clan and the Dragon clan who stood at the apex of beasts would never casually recognize a master. Therefore, they could only choose to sleep. Leng Ruoxue nodded. If one couldn't break through the limit, then death was also imminent. Swear, someone's here. At this moment, the freak suddenly called out. Leng Ruoxue nodded slightly and stopped talking. Miss Leng. Yu Tian strode into the cell. When he saw Leng Ruoxue, he quickly greeted her. After that, he looked at Leng Ruoxue and the others with a headache and sighed in his heart. Sigh. These people were really too troublesome. First it was the Lan clan, and now it was the Phoenix clan. The Lan clan was still alright. After all, it didn't have much to do with them, but the Phoenix clan wasn't easy to deal with. He was really worried. TM going to make things difficult for Butler Yu again. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Hee hee. Looking at the depressed expression on Yu Tian's face, she could guess what he was thinking. Miss Leng, this matter is a little difficult to handle. Yu Tian didn't beat around the bush and spoke truthfully. The Phoenix clan and Dragon clan were famous for their unity, and the injured person had an extraordinary status in the Phoenix clan. So, even if he wanted to help Leng Ruoxue and the others, those old geezers probably wouldn't agree. After all, the Phoenix clan was too formidable. What's so difficult about it? Didn't I also offend the Lan family? Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. That's different. The Hu family and Lan family don't have a deep relationship. The Lan family head wouldn't care at all. But, the Phoenix clan is different. The members of the Phoenix clan are very united. If they know that their own clansmen are injured, they probably won't let the matter rest. Yu Tian explained. Even though the Phoenix clan were beasts, their status among the beast clans was like those 3 great super clans in the vast heaven continent. Their status was transcendent and their strength was formidable. Hence, even the 3 great super clans were not too willing to provoke the Dragon and Phoenix clans. Their shadow league was the same. Bullshitted, the Phoenix clan is very united, but that was in the past. Feng Miao exploded when she heard Yu Tian's words. Ah! Yu Tian was bewildered. He didn't know how his words had offended this woman. Why did she have such a big reaction? TM sure Butler Yu doesn't know. She's also from the Phoenix clan. Leng Ruoxua smiled as she introduced Yu Tian. He seemed to be in a hurry and probably didn't know the exact situation. Ah! What a coincidence! Yu Tian said with sudden realization. Since she was also from the Phoenix clan, then it should be considered an internal conflict between their clans. It seemed that they didn't need outsiders to interfere. Butler Yu, can you release my subordinates first? Leng Ruoxua asked politely. It was polite to ask, but if she didn't agree, she would have to use force. Yes, of course. Yu Tian hurriedly said. Ah. He didn't want to care about the matters of the Phoenix clan. He was thinking that since all of you are from the Phoenix clan, then you should settle this matter privately. After he finished speaking, Yu Tian took out the key that he had prepared earlier. He opened the cell door and let out the two people locked inside. Thank you, Butler Yu, Leng Ruoxua said. Then, she gave Feng Zhan a look and pulled the freak away. Miss Leng, please wait. Yu Tian quickly called out to Leng Ruoxua, seeing that she was about to leave. Chapter 716, A Woman's Heart is a Deep Ocean of Secrets, 2, Butler Yu, is there anything else? Leng Ruoxua frowned and asked in confusion. That Feng Xian is still poisoned. Yu Tian reminded. Although he did not want to meddle in the Phoenix clan's affairs, Feng Xian was poisoned in Shadow City after all, so he could not stay out of it. Oh. Where are they now? Leng Ruoxua asked with a smile. At the Shadow League encampment. Yu Tian replied honestly. However, for some reason, after he finished speaking, he felt a chill run down his spine. Oh, this young lady. Leng's smile made him feel very pressured. Butler Yu, if you have something to do, go ahead. We're going to the Shadow League camp to see the patient. After Leng Ruoxua finished speaking, the four of them and the beast left the prison cell without looking back. Nothing will happen, right? Seeing the backs of Leng Ruoxua and the others, Yu Tian, who was standing at his original spot, couldn't help but mutter to himself. Woo! Why was his heart so uneasy? After Leng Ruoxua and the others left the prison, they slipped towards the Shadow League's camp. Master! We can't give the antidote to that damn woman so easily. We have to earn some money. I heard that the Phoenix clan is very rich. Feng Zhan suggested as they walked. Who said I sent her the antidote? Leng Ruoxua raised her eyebrows and asked, if you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website MyBox Novel. Thanks, calmly. Ah. Could it be that Master wants Fiery to bite her again? Feng Zhan guessed. Hee, this idea was good. He liked it. Pa. Leng Ruoxua slapped Feng Zhan's head and said righteously, am I that kind of person? I just wanted to see if that woman is dead. Master is the kindest. She definitely won't watch that woman die in pain. Heh. If she hasn't died yet, then let's euthanize her to prevent her from suffering. Feng Zhan suggested. That's a good idea, but I've never eaten roasted phoenix meat before. I wonder if the meat is thick. Leng Ruoxua frowned and thought seriously. Swear, I heard that the phoenix meat is extremely delicious. The demon laughed. Master, let's have some roast phoenix meat. Feng Zhan said with an expectant look on his face. His saliva was about to drool at the mention of delicious food. Feng Zhan. Is that your kind? Leng Ruoxua said somewhat speechlessly. So what? Actually, in my eyes, they're only large-sized turkeys. Moreover, many carnivores will eat their own kind. We beast men don't care about that. Feng spoke indifferently. Humph. So long as it wasn't him who was eating, then who would he care about eating? Feng Miao, who had remained silent at the side, broke out in a cold sweat after hearing their conversation. She thought to herself, these people are really too evil. Fortunately, I've long abandoned the darkness and turned to the light. Otherwise, wouldn't I become food in their mouths? The few of them chatted as they walked. Soon, they arrived at a very tall courtyard. Looking at the two words Shadow League on the plaque outside the courtyard, Leng Ruoxue signaled Feng Zhan to knock on the door. Dong! Dong! Feng Zhan knocked loudly a few times. Not long after, a guard came to open the door. Who are you looking for? The guard asked curiously. We are looking for Feng Xian. We heard that her injuries are not light, so we specially came to take a look, Leng Ruoxue said bluntly. You're from the Phoenix clan as well? The guard was confused. The Shadow League hadn't received any news that other members of the Phoenix clan were here. We are not, my beast bit Feng Xian, as the owner, I naturally have to come and ask. Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face was filled with a wicked smile. Wait a moment. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the guard turned around to report. Not long after, he opened the door and invited them in. The guard brought Leng Ruoxue and the others into the living room. At this moment, there were 3 inconspicuous old men sitting in the living room. When the 3 old men saw them, they didn't even lift their eyelids, nor did they invite them to sit down. When Leng Ruoxue and the rest saw that no one called out to them, they did not stand on ceremony and found a chair to sit on. Then, they took out tea and snacks from their bracelets. The 4 of them and the beast began to eat as if there was no one else around. Originally, Feng Miao was still a little nervous when she saw the 3 of them and the beast, but after being infected by them, she started to gorge herself. Miss, this snack is really too delicious. Feng Miao stuffed her mouth without any care for her image and said with a little unclear mouth. Of course. Don't you know who did it? Feng Zhan said proudly. Miss, please order more dishes. It's almost noon, I'm hungry. Feng Miao looked at Leng Ruoxue pitifully and pleaded. Okay. You guys bring that small table over, let's have lunch, Leng Ruoxue instructed. All right. Feng Zhan and Feng Miao moved at the same time, each moving a small table and piecing them together. Meanwhile, Leng Ruoxue took out plates of food from her bracelet and placed them on the table. The aroma of the food immediately spread far and wide. After the food was taken out, Leng Ruoxue's group of 4 and 1 beast began to gorge themselves. Their actions had angered the 3 old men sitting in the hall to the point of almost spitting blood. Seeing the 4 people and 1 beast eating happily not far away, they were envious and angry at the same time. Woo! Originally, they had assumed their stance to give Leng Ruoxue and the others a show of strength, but who knew that they didn't take them seriously at all and instead treated this place as their own dining hall. This was too much. Cuckoo! At this moment, the stomach of the old man sitting in the middle actually let out a disappointing cry. Instantly, the old man's face turned red with embarrassment and was extremely embarrassed. He wished that there was a hole in the ground for him to crawl into. The hungry voices seemed to be contagious, and the stomachs of the other 2 old men started to protest. However, the skin of the other 2 old men was obviously thicker, because their faces were not red, and their hearts did not skip a beat as they sat calmly on the chairs. Actually, no one knew who was hungry, but the 2 of them did not feel good either. Moreover, the gluttonous worms in their bodies had been lured out by the table of food that could only be hoped for but could not be obtained. Right now, it could be said that they were riding a tiger and couldn't get off. They wanted to leave, but they couldn't bring themselves to do so. However, if they didn't leave, they would have to starve again. Sob. They asked for it. At this moment, the three of them were filled with tears of regret. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.